I can't
There you go.
Probably because you left the room. Probably unshared.
We are live.
Hello, everybody.
All right, repair.
We're checking equipment and making sure that everything is working properly. So, any questions that you'd like to have us cover before we get started here on the actual event? The schedule is we start at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock our time, which is Central Time in Chicago. So those who have had a couple of questions, yes, we're supposed to be starting about 5:40 our time, and we will be actually starting the presentation about 6 o'clock our time, and we're usually pretty much right on time. But we have this period of time ahead of time for anybody who's interested in asking questions and giving comments and anything that you'd like to know that we might be able to be helpful to you. We're certainly willing to entertain it now. I'm glad to see a couple of you saying the sound is great. Last time we had some issues, well, 2 times ago we had some issues with that. We kind of surmised that the problem in that situation was the atmospheric conditions, or the weather, if you want to call it that. It was raining pitchforks and saw logs, and unfortunately, I think that was something that we have no control over. So we are predicted to have showers tonight, thunder showers tonight. So we're hoping that thunder showers tonight means after midnight. But whatever happens, we will be here, and hopefully the sound will be pretty good. We've got a couple of different cameras that are better cameras and so forth. So hopefully it'll all work out well. And good to see everybody. Good to see everybody that we know. We will, this particular one is kind of a response to questions that we've had in the past. So it'll be an interesting evening. Quite a few comments have been sent to me in email. And so we hope that we can cover everything that you're interested in. So we still don't see any amazing questions. So with that, I'll let John Schuck talk to you for a while because I'm out of stuff to say.
So it sounds like I missed the weather last time. That was bad, huh?
You were not here, unfortunately. I'm sure you could have stopped it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I at least I would have been able to share it with you.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So John, Harold says that he started to watch your videos, and looks like it's good stuff.
Oh, nice. I appreciate that. I've been having a lot of fun making them. Unfortunately, anyone that's made YouTube videos, your intent is always to do a lot and to have fun with it, but your days seem to interrupt that thought process, and there's just not enough hours in the day. So
for those of you who haven't seen John's newest video, he did just put one up. I watched it last night before I go to bed every night. I have ice cream and watch YouTube, and it happened that his came up. So I watched his YouTube last night. And his YouTube was perfect for what I was doing at the moment, because the subject is making a chocolate and vanilla handle for a ice cream scoop. So yeah, it was, and John presents it with a certain amount of humor. If you haven't seen it, it is really very clever. And at the same time, of course, I learned a tremendous amount because I don't do I don't do any pouring of resins. So yeah, John covered a whole heck of a lot.
So I think everybody was happy in that except for my dog, who didn't get any ice cream. So you were having ice cream watching me have ice cream.
Exactly correct.
All right.
Exactly correct. I'll close that door, Mark, so it doesn't get hotter.
You got it.
Thank you.
I want to know.
I'll go blanks again. Oh.
Go ahead.
See, I just want to know, John, when you became the Hulk, because that poor spoon.
You know, it looked and thought it was going to be so much better in my head than when I actually did it. And unfortunately, I think I bent the spoon 3 times before I finally said, you know what, the take is what it is. So I kept waiting for it to break when I bend it back. But you do those things when your wife's not home, and then what she doesn't know doesn't hurt her. So,
Well, the thing is that I used to break those scoops, not that scoop, but scoops that were out at the time. I would break one every 3 months.
Yeah.
It's
That's a lot of ice cream.
Ice cream fights. I have it every night. And I don't miss my ice cream, but it fights that. So
Yeah.
with that particular scoop, now I've had one for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's still in fine shape. So
And I'll let you know that the low carb ice cream that they make is very good.
is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, there's 5 carb ice cream now.
He just ruined ice cream.
Yeah, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, if I can't get the full effect, I want all the junk and garbage in it. So I apologize. You're gonna see me squint because I'm trying to read the chat as it's scrolling. So yeah.
Nice. We got several first timers. That's awesome.
Oh, that is great.
If you guys are first timers, can you let us know how you found out about it?
Amen.
I did put out some feelers today on a couple Facebook pages. We're just trying to figure out what's a good source for us, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Still no questions though. Come on, we need some questions.
Anybody go to the AAW last month? See John or myself or Ed?
That was an expensive trip for me.
It was a long trip.
No, it was an expensive trip because I learned how to do something new, got some new tools, ordered a new lathe.
There you go.
I'll tell you, I spend most of my time in that vendor area. Some of the stuff is spectacular.
Yeah.
Those vendors are spectacular.
Oh, I seen a lot of things I want. I remember I walked past one of the booths and the clerk there said, "Hey, have a seat, try this on." I said, "No, I can't, because if I do, I'm going to leave with it." And I can't.
And the opportunity to meet and take a picture with Tommy Silva.
Yeah.
I got my Tommy Silva autographed This Old House picture.
Yep.
A few years ago, I met Norm, so
Hey,
I'm going for that whole.
And he's never asked you to autograph for me, has he?
no, well.
You ever signed anything for Mark?
Don't say
I'm sorry. Who has one of the first box sets of your casting system?
All right. I'll give you that. I'll give you
Autographed
that.
by you.
I'll give you that. So part of what we're doing tonight, as I'd mentioned, came from customer requests. So you guys that are first timers here, if there's things you want to see or things that you're not quite sure about or interested in, don't be afraid to send it in on the chat. That way it gives us ideas of what to do the following months. And all of tonight was based all on that. So when you get into routines like we do, Ed and I were just talking a little bit ago, we kind of take for granted what we're doing and how we do it because it's just what we do. So if there's something you guys are interested in or want to see, please let us know so we can kind of get out of our own heads and put something together for you.
I think this one's going to be the first time where we're doing a lot more ad hoc, and everybody's going to take a turn at talking about different techniques, because finishing in general, when you look on Facebook or you look at all the other sites, finishing in general, there's always a million different ways of doing it.
That's really part of the issue here. I looked at all the things that we've done on Zoom and on this YouTube before we scheduled this, and we've done some sessions on finishing, but it's such a wide open topic. You can do a million different ways of finishing.
Yep.
And there's so much chatter about it, some of which is so far off of true. Some is right, but
I think people tend to overcomplicate it.
yeah, there's truth to that.
Instead of letting the project tell you what it needs or what you should do, a lot of people think that I have to do this, 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 and this. And that's not always so. It's
Yep.
based on the needs of what you're turning.
So for me, one of the biggest things, especially with pen making, having done it for 30 years, is you get set in a way of doing things,
Mhm.
and that becomes the only way that you've ever done it, and that becomes your method. And when you look at some of the new products that are out there, some of the new finishes that are out there, I'm always trying something different. And that's how, I remember when I first started and I was making a wooden pen, it was that hot
The stick.
brown stick and the hot white, yellow white
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
And you would just press it in as hard as you can,
Mhm.
and then take a towel, buff it out, and the pen would look great for about a day or two, and that would be the end of it.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way, which that predated a lot of our internet one-stop shop places
Yeah.
that we've had, right?
Yeah.
So you only had so much product you could obtain, and everybody was still kind of learning. So there's so many more things on the market nowadays, and there's just no one set recipe on how to use them.
Well, then, as I said, the thing cool is you should always be looking at what's new out there and trying it. So I think that's what we're going to cover tonight. Is we're going to cover. I still have a technique that I've been using the last 3 years, but we're going to go over some other techniques and some of the other stuff that, there's also, and we'll talk about this later. There's a ton of myths out there, right?
Mhm.
One of the biggest myths that I always read is that first and foremost, acrylic is acrylic, which is a myth. There's a bunch of different things that are out there called acrylic, and that acrylic doesn't need a finish on it after it's done. And I'll agree 100%. It doesn't need it, but you'll see tonight that when you put it on there, you'll get a lot more luster in what you're doing, and you'll get a more vibrant finish on there.
Well, it comes down to durability too. How long is that finish going to hold up? And there's so many things on the market, especially when we first started out, things that look great the minute you were done with it.
Yep.
But with use, after a couple of weeks, all of a sudden that luster's gone. And so a lot of times the new finishes that we're using are harder than the material we're turning. So it gives you a more durable, a higher shine, a longer shine, and more resistance to wearing down with use.
Years ago, a lot of this stuff was wax based.
Yep.
And wax is wonderful for making things shiny. Unfortunately, Johnson Wax has made a small fortune because wax has to be replaced regularly and your finish has to be redone regularly. So, I used to, when I started doing this in 1995-ish, I sold some wood pens, and I would tell people this is just like any other fine furniture. When you have a piece of fine furniture, you have your dining room table, your person of the house who does such things. It used to be your wife, but now whoever does such things once every week or two comes by with the pledge and goes back and forth and shines it all up, and then you eat off of it for a week, and then she comes back and shines it all up again. Now, essentially, what we're doing when we're putting out these beautiful pens is putting that same type of a shine on your pen. And every day you're going to hold it, sometimes with sweaty hands, sometimes with whatever. And therefore, you are going to wear that finish no matter what you do. Well, at that time, the finishes were wax and some shellac base. Basically nothing that had a really good residual shine that would happen all the time. Hey, cool. We'll use that later. We can use it now if you want to. But what it came down to was you had to maintain your pens. Now when you're looking at it, so many things have changed and new entrants into the market. We talk a lot about Glue Boost. It probably was available at that time, but it was not anything that had anything to do with our industry.
Right. Wasn't marketed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a replacement finish for
Guitars.
for guitars
Yeah.
and musical instruments.
Do you know when that started?
When his product started,
When he started selling?
I think 10 to 15 years ago, and I know that I picked it up 2019.
Okay.
He called me.
18.
Yeah, 2018 is when he
2018,
called me
yeah.
and reached out, and I don't even know how he got my name.
Yeah.
And called me, reached out, and I started to play with it, and I got everybody else involved with it.
So there's a lot that's come up in the time frame from the time that we started doing it until now. And some companies that weren't necessarily doing anything are starting to do stuff. And some companies, when you look at the resins, the new epoxies, quote, new epoxies, unquote, you see that there are companies that are starting up today and gone tomorrow. So, it's an industry that has evolved a lot. I was talking with a lady the other day who was also on the edges of the industry. And I made some comments about my guess as to what the volume of this industry is, and my guess is that it's somewhere over $100 million a year. And her teeth fell out. She just couldn't believe that there was anywhere near that much business out there. But that also means that certain other companies are going to want to talk to us and put out products that they think we'll use. So yeah, it has become a lot more interesting industry. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that wasn't there for a long time, and it gives us something to talk about. But I won't take away the strength of the next.
So Big Max Woodworking says, how do you sell your, I assume he's talking about pens, when you give them, that your wife and kids take them away. I'll tell you, that's how it started for me. I had a little pen rack on my mantle at my fireplace, and I had like 20 or 30 of them. And every time I'd make one, I would put it up there. And then when a guy came in to fix the plumbing, if he'd notice them, that was his tip. Or a guy came to do this, or my wife stole them and stuff like that. So I agree with you. And then Betty says, I bet you'll cover this later, but have you used the new Glue Boost lacquer shot for pens? And if so, how do you like it? I will tell you, 5 minutes into this, you will see lacquer shot. We will be definitely demoing lacquer shot. I love it. And John and I both did a lot of testing for him before it went live with the product, and I love it as a product.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. It'll make you look good. It leaves a great finish. It's easy to apply. It's not like most of your sprays. So it's good stuff.
So you will see that demoed, Betty.
My
haven't tried
comment about that product is I used to use lacquer long ago when there wasn't much else available. And spray on lacquer in Wisconsin generally means you spray it on Monday, and if all goes well, you can do something else with it Friday or Saturday. It takes that long to dry.
After you can get back in the shop because of the fumes.
And the fumes are
Yeah.
a little overcoming.
Yep.
But yes, there's an awful lot of downside to the typical lacquer. This, as I'll tell you about, but it really does overcome those things. There's no smell to speak of. And you don't have any problems with it drying. That's the shock to me. Mark is going to show doing 3 coats of it in the evening tonight at 20-minute intervals. So clearly, you couldn't do that before, and you would never want to try it because all you'd end up with is a tacky that gave you fingerprints that were out of this world.
And sags.
And
Well,
yeah,
Doesn't mean I'm not going to be tacky.
well, that's okay. You're allowed.
But it's around when you're huffing lacquer, so we won't notice.
But it's amazing how little smell there is. I haven't tried it on pens yet, but I've been trying it to learn with my ornaments that I started turning, and it works really well. I was impressed. I will not tell you it's going to be perfect your very first try and figuring out the number of coats and how long to wait, but I was really impressed with it from something bigger, because I think my ornaments are too big to try and do CA for the way I like to do CA. So I like it.
That's the thing about small turnings, quote unquote. We think about pens because that's what we've been turning for years. But then when we talk about small turnings, yeah, you're talking about a handle. Well, yeah, it's smaller than a bread box, but it isn't all that small. And if you're trying to do a CA finish on it, it becomes huge. So a lot of these things that we do on the quote MIDI lathe unquote can be too large to do with a straight CA finish. Glue Boost finish is wonderful on pens, but when you get to bigger things, the industry was ready for some better answer, and I think this is that better answer.
But we're going to cover tonight. We're going to cover just a handful of different techniques, and we are going to talk a little bit about a quick extension into some other small turnings. But I think this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be something different because this by far is going to be the most, for lack of a better phrase, ad hoc that we're going to do, because we all have different thoughts on how we do this stuff.
And of course, I'm right, and the other two guys are very good.
Well, I always joke and say, Mark's going to show you how he does it, and then we'll show you the right way.
Oh,
But the nice thing
Yeah,
about
you know,
a lot of these
when-
finishes,
When you only have to do 1 or 2 pens a year, I guess you could take a little bit more time.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah. but the nice thing about a lot of these products, there's not just one way to do it.
Right.
And that's what we've shown that here. Because all three of us can use the same product, use it differently, and still get good results. So
Yeah, to me, the biggest thing that you can ever do is practice. I know it's something we all learn when we're, growing up. If you play sports or you go to school and stuff, everybody says practice.
you'll get the hang of it. Keep it up.
Yeah, and you do. So,
Yep.
It's
I
a
like to make tea light holders as well as dynamic painting pens and crochet hooks, not the kit style. So that's Sarah.
I'm glad you automatically autocorrect Tea Light too, because I did. My brain automatically read Tea Light, even though it's not what it says the same way.
Yeah. Well, you see, there's advantages to not being able to see what was written.
That's true.
We're kind of taking a wild stab at what we think it says.
So Harold says that was teaching some coworkers, had really good luck with Mylan's finish. They were happy. We are going to cover Mylan's finish, but let me tell you this: Harold's right. If you ever want to know how good your technique is, teach it to someone else.
Yep.
You will not believe all the steps that you do that you just do. It's inherent to the way that you do it, and you even forget that you do it. And until you take the time and teach it to someone else, and my biggest thing, and I love doing this one, is I get kids into my shop, and I love teaching kids at Woodcraft. In November, we do a turning with kids. We get about 50 or 60 pens we make at that event. And then literally the next weekend, we do turning with adults. And we get about another 50 pens made at that one. And we did it at the AAW. If anybody went to the AAW this year and you stopped in the Learn to Turn area, John was there, Ed was there, myself was there, and so was my wife, Donna. And teaching other people, you can't believe how much better your technique becomes because you spend time talking to someone and telling them what the important parts are. And that's why I like doing this. I like coming down here because I honestly, when I leave, I learn just as much about stuff because you two definitely do things different than the way I do.
I think that's his way of saying we've made him a better turner.
No, that's
No, you never tell us that. That's not going to happen.
no. I just go,
Right.
oh look, you can't cut corners.
Yeah.
That's what,
Yeah.
when I see you guys, I go, yeah, you can't cut corners.
How many hundred do you do a week?
There are times. I think I do about, in all sincerity, I make about 15 to 1600 pens a year.
Okay.
Now, if I were turning other people's blanks, I could make that many.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And if all I had to do was pour resin, I would be able to make more.
I wish you'd pour resin. Then I could get blanks from you. I wouldn't have to make them all myself.
I could never do what you do. I could never. I don't have the patience to do what you do. Your stuff is incredible.
Everybody has their own strength.
I'll be honest, I'd rather make the blank than turn it.
Yeah. And I'd rather turn the blank and call you to make them for me.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have you make the
You'd rather sell them.
you make the blank and have you turn the blank, and I'll go out and sell it and take the money. That'll work out.
Yeah. I like the whole creative side of it, being able to come up with something and try to make it happen.
Well, the cool part is, and you know this more than anything, is that on once a month on Thursdays, a couple $1,000s worth of product is leaving the building.
And all I had to do was bring him with me.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it
And his
takes.
checkbook.
So we gotta
6 o'clock, gentlemen.
We're right at 6 o'clock, so why don't we get started? For those of you who are first timers, thank you for coming. For those of you who are coming many times, thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. This is our Thursday night once a month where we kind of discuss whatever it is that we've heard from you that you'd like to hear about regarding pen turning and other turnings and so forth. The cast, if you call it that, those of you who may not know, I'm Ed Brown. I own part of Exotic Blanks. This is Mark Dreyer and John Underhill. And the guy in the corner is Dean. Dean is Alpha Geek on the IAP, and he is our IT guy. and he has been generous with his time to help us set up all this stuff so that we can hopefully come through to you clearly and with some degree of professionalism. So that's who we are. A little bit more about who we are this time, because it occurs to me that I never really talk about these guys. I figure that you all know who they are, and why should I have to buff them up? Well, I also have listened to some other videos from other people, and the information they're presenting leaves a lot of room for improvement. So why do these two guys have more credibility than most? Mark is a paid demonstrator for Easy Wood Tools. He has gone to various different woodcraft around the Midwest predominantly, but around the country to some extent. He's been far east and far south. But they chose him to do that job, and he does a very good job of it. Additionally, both Mark and John have been resource people for Glue Boost. Glue Boost is, as you know, one of our favorite finishes. One of the things that we like to talk about among ourselves. The purpose of what we do is to try to help you become better turners and to use better products and to enjoy the hobby more. So it isn't so much a matter of who's going to pay us to do this stuff. It's a matter of what is the best product out there. And if we truly believe in it, it becomes the product that we talk about. In some cases, yes, they're compensated. In most cases, no, they're not. So that's who you have here every month. The strength of the two guys are, Mark has been doing this for almost as long as I have. He started in the late 1990s as well. John's been 2004, 2005. So none of us are doing it for the first time. And as John said earlier, one of the things that brings to this event is a bit of a problem, in that we have all developed our habits, and we all make pretty good pens, and we all make pretty good other products. And Mark's every week he's out doing craft shows. He does a tremendous assortment of products. So we're all doing things that require a certain amount of expertise. And so, if you pay attention, I can guarantee you that between now and the end of this event, you will learn 2 or 3 things. You may decide you don't want to do them, but you will learn 2 or 3 things. So that's basically what the 3 of us bring to the table, and Dean keeps it running for us, and we appreciate that. And there's also, if there's links and questions and so forth, he will be the man who takes care of taking that and getting it out to you. Additionally, there will be some kind of a giveaway, and I just saw Dawn walk through the door, meaning she would like to talk to me to find out what that's going to be. So somewhere along the line here, there will be 3 breaks. In those 3 breaks, essentially, Mark has got to do his thing on the project that he's going to start with. So you'll see that. And generally speaking, that's the outline for the night. Now, again, I want to point out to you that tonight is because of requests. We had scheduled finishing, but we really didn't have a format or a thought or what we wanted to do. Because we got a request from one of the people who watches us every week, and I know her, we kind of changed it around so that we would include that, which is going to be putting a label on a finished pen. We've talked about putting the labels on the tubes and then casting them, but we haven't talked about putting the label on the pen itself and then finishing it up. So John will be covering that at some point during the course of the evening. That's the one thing we're going to do. The other event I'll let hang until they get that far. Otherwise, I'll get confused with what we're doing, which isn't hard these days. So without a whole lot of further information, do we want to, we'll talk about pen finishing with wood and acrylic. Do we want to start with your project?
Yeah, I'm just going to
get the first
shot
on it.
If it's okay with you guys,
Sure,
I'm going to take all 3. I'm going to get my lacquer on it just so you can know. And I know Betty asked about this earlier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you lacquer shot. and how easy this product is to use. So, John, can I ask you to help me for a minute?
Yep.
So,
No responsibility.
so let's switch to the other camera,
Which one do you want to show?
that one, and let's just show what a finished product looks like with lacquer shot.
Okay.
And hopefully you can get a view on this one. What I love about using lacquer shot, and we're not going to be too long on this one, is simply the fact that
Oop.
you get
Sorry.
a nice lacquer-based finish, and you're going to watch. We're going to be done in an hour. We're going to get that finish on that pepper mill in an hour. And there's another one. That one's all wood. So that one's half wood or half acrylic. It solves a lot of problems for me, right? A, it's a finish that I can do in less than an hour's worth of work. The finish on it is tremendous. I love that finish on there. And more importantly, some of the stuff that we're going to talk about on pens, like half wood, half acrylic, it's going to solve that. So what I did, just to give you guys an idea, I'm going to show you a piece of wood that I've just turned. And here, we can put it under there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the block of it. So there's the block of wood. And there's a pepper mill now that I just did the turning on it. And I will tell you, my process is this simple. I turned the piece that I wanted, sanded it down to 400 wet dry in the dry state, and then simply shot 2 coats of shellac on it last night. And you can see it's still rather dull, right? So now I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to use lacquer shot. So you want to go back to
There you go.
camera one? So we're going to do this because I want to get 3 coats of quick lacquer shot on it. And then what we'll do is we'll go into, John will do the next part of the demo. But I just wanted to start this for you guys. So you can see, the nice thing about it is, I know a lot of people will do this when it's on the lathe, but the problem I have is when I do it on the lathe, I don't want a lot of overspray. And I don't want to see this getting all over my lathe. I don't want to take the time in covering it. So I simply take a wooden dowel. I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to shoot it. And people will always ask, aren't you going to get a drip line under here? Isn't the lacquer going to run off and cause a drip line on the bottom or a line on the top? And the short and long answer is no. And watch, it's because I'm only going to do really, really quick shots on it. So I just take the Glue Boost lacquer shot that you see here. And I'm going to do this slightly off camera right here. You'll see it, but I don't want to do it right over other stuff that I have. So I'm going to hit the top of it. Then I'm going to spray the bottom of it. Then I'm going to put it on the dowel. And I'm going to basically let it dry. So let's spray up that chair. That was it. It's really, really light coats. I'm going to put it on the dowel now.
Hold it like out over
So
the edge of the table that way.
let's
Right
move
there.
this out.
Perfect.
Yep. And now I'm just going to simply, and this is the fun part. I'm going to spray it with lacquer. I'm going to rotate it. And that's it. If you want to put that under the light kind of carefully and put it next to that. That's coat number 1.
This is camera
2.
2.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can see the raw block, and then we started building up a shine. And I'm going to let John do the next part of the demo. 10 minutes later, I'm going to spray it again. And that's it. That's all there is to putting a lacquer finish on this stuff.
So you do that on the rod because they're larger and a little easier because of the angles that you have to spray. I know when I've done pens with it, I've actually done it on the lathe with it running with the
Yep.
same results.
Yep.
Just turn the lathe on low, missed it across the lathe a couple of times as it spins through the spray, and gotten great coverage with it. You might want to put a backdrop behind the lathe if you've got a wall or anything close. I always cover the bed of the lathe with a towel so I don't have all that landing on the bed and not able to slide my tailstock across it.
So, and you know what? We could maybe even do a demo at some point on pepper mills. But one of the reasons I do it while it's off is because when I go to turn the top, I'm gonna take measurements with my caliper to make sure that this piece is the same as the head and the rotating part, so I get a nice uniformity in it. So I will turn 3, 4, maybe even 5 pepper mills, both sets of them, before I go down and start the lacquer on them.
Mhm.
And then that way I can lacquer them all. You saw how easy it was to lacquer it. I'll lacquer it all. I'll put it on a drying rack. I'll lacquer them all. 10 minutes later, lacquer them all, and then they sit overnight.
Well, it is. I've seen your setup, and what's really neat about it is, it's basically, it looks like a ladder, and he'll take the dowel rods and just hang them in each spot. So you'll have a series of them all on rods. So
Yep.
as you spray them, you just pick them up and spray them, which is
Pick them up,
Great for a
spray them,
pickup.
shoot them down,
Yep.
rotate it, do that little thing, flip on it, rotate it around, put it on the rack, pull the next one off. And if anybody's interested in that, is it okay if they shoot you an email and
Oh,
I'll
sure.
shoot you a picture?
Sure.
I didn't bring the rack, I didn't think about it, but if you want to see the setup and the rack and how I do it, I will shoot a picture to Ed.
so.
So,
They do have a question on the shellacking.
There,
sure.
so
Question.
yeah, I was gonna say there was actually 2 questions on shellacking. There was a question that said, how do you apply shellac? Do you sand it afterwards? And another one asked, is it de-waxed shellac?
So I use Zinzers. So Zinzers yellow can, so it is a de-waxed shellac. I will shoot no more than 2 quick coats on it, and then I will put it back on my lathe. And sometimes I sand it, but I will tell you most of the time I just put it back on my lathe and knock it down with 4/0 steel wool till it's level. And so I'll just put it on my lathe, spin it with 4/0 steel wool, knock it off so I can feel it, and then there you go. So hopefully that answered it. Yeah, it's Zinzers. It's the yellow can, and it is a de-wax shellac. So it's a great point. You don't have to worry about any kind of drying. The lacquer is going to attach to it.
And it's
That
pretty,
can for a minute.
that's pretty common to find as well. Zinzers, you'll find it at most hardware stores. I found it at Menards and
Tell them about that. I know you know about it.
about the
Go ahead.
the tip.
Directional spray.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the lacquer shot can itself is the tip. It's a directional tip, so you can actually turn this whether you're spraying horizontally or vertically, because as it sprays out, it opens up kind of like a V, and it allows you to get your spray so that you're not wasting a lot of product on an overspray.
It can be done. I don't know. Maybe you don't know it either. I found out the other day. This is wider than it is high. Sorry about that. I looked at a car once. So ever since I have car people calling me daily, strange hours of the day. Anyway, this goes horizontally currently. You can turn that with a pliers, I learned, so
Yep.
that it goes vertically. So if you're doing anything and you want it to go, if it's already set for vertical and you're doing this and you feel like you're losing a lot of overspray, turn it and go horizontally, and it takes away that issue, and you can get much better yield out of your can. But it's something that they tell you on the can. If any of you read the can, I never have until this. But yeah, it is pretty cool. It does make a difference in how much of it you use.
Well, and the weird part is, right?
Yeah.
We're in Wisconsin right now. There's 90-degree heat. There's a lot of humidity out there,
Yep.
and there's the pepper mill.
Yep.
I'm already holding it. So I'm just going to let it cure over here while we do a next part, and we'll just build this. We'll build this finish, and by the end of the night, we're going to have something fantastic. So I want to get to all the other stuff that we promised that we were going to have.
So we started out with the lacquer shot because it allows it to dry for a bit while we move on. So we had a request about water slide decals. So I'm going to start out with that real quick. If any of you have ever built a model car or anything, growing up, a lot of things came with the water slide decals, mostly the models, whether it be the planes, the boats, the cars, whatever. But you're also able to create these. And I got into it because at the time I was making a lot of wood pens, but I didn't have the resources to have them engraved. And so it was real simple to put somebody's name on something or a custom logo without sending it out to an engraver somewhere and hoping that you had the font size right and everything that you needed. You had to trust your engraver, which I do now because I know someone who's very good at it. But when I was using water slide decals, it was great because it allowed me to customize something on the go. The only problem with water slide decals is it's not something that you can just start and finish in a day. There's some drying time involved. So I'm going to show you some products that I use, and then in the process afterwards, I've made about a 4.5-minute video that cuts all of the waiting time out of the way, so you guys are able to actually see the process. Starting out, your options obviously are going to be what kind of decal paper you're going to use. The main thing is it has to be water slide. If it doesn't say water slide, it's not going to work. Also, you're going to need a computer and a printer. And for what most of these will have instructions on them that'll tell you the settings that you need to put on your computer. And usually it's select gloss paper. I always go to the high definition instead of the normal because I want something a little more precise. But when it comes down to brands, I started out with Testors. They had clear and white background both. The problem with the white background is you're going to have to use some sort of a punch or something accurate to cut it out because you're going to see that white behind whatever you're printing. It's great for colored prints, but if you want something to look like it's just on the wood and not a decal, white's not going to do any good. So I like the clear paper, but I've moved from Testors because I got tired of having to buy the kit, which came with 2 different types of the paper, the clear and the white background, and their bonder. Now the bonder, what that does, when you print these out on your printer, you're going to let that ink dry, and I usually let it dry for a day. I probably don't have to, but I don't want the ink to run or smear when I clear coat it. So what the bonder will do then, it will seal the ink on top of that decal paper, so when you put it in water, it doesn't bleed and doesn't run on you. So if I'm using Testors, I have their bonders because I bought it in a kit, and that's fine. These small pages, as you get printing things, and I've printed a lot of stuff out of them, sometimes you'll have little pieces left. And what I'll do is I'll use 2-sided tape, and I'll tape this to a piece of just regular old white printer paper so I can still send it through my printer. I just have to be real careful about how I'm using MS Word and where I leave my images. And that's primarily what I've done with this stuff. I've just printed them where I need them. And then I've waited a day, and I sprayed the bonder.
Hey, John, so the question came up, would a Cricut cut the decal sheet also?
It probably would, but the problem is you're going to have to know how to use your Cricut sheet to get it to cut it where you want it. I usually just use a pair of scissors, and I'll use a pair of new scissors that have a very crisp cut line, not something that's going to bend the paper or fight you on it. And you want to cut as close as you can to your printed object when you go to apply these, because you want the clear background that this is printed on to disappear on you. And there's a couple ways that you can do that I'll talk about in a moment. But the main thing is once you print these out on your paper, you want to let them set for a day and dry. You want to let that ink dry completely before you spray your bonder. So after I've sprayed my bonder, I'll let them usually sit for another day. So now I'm 2 days into my project. The first day I printed and let them dry. The second day I've sprayed it and let it dry. Now, if I'm not using Testors, you can buy other brands. There's a ton of brands out there, and I know Exotic Blanks will be carrying this product. I believe they actually have it in-house. I don't know if it's listed yet, but the nice thing about this stuff is it's a full sheet, and you don't have to use a bonder. You can use a clear coat, just a rattle can clear coat, and I'm using Rust-Oleum. I bought it at Walmart. I think it was about $6 a can. The main thing is you want light coats. So you want to stand above it and lightly spray it and let that fall on it and walk away from it. Give it about 20 minutes. When you know it's dry, mist over it again. And I'll usually do that 3, maybe 4 times, depending on how heavy I feel I got the coat. But then I let that dry for a day before I use these decals. There's a few things they make for the hobbyists that apply these. They're solutions. This one is called Microsol. It's not a necessity, but what it does is it actually relaxes the bonding film so that it takes a better shape, whatever you're putting it on. And now this is great when I was making some model cars for an agency because the sides were kind of rolled and it looked just like a car, only small scale. And the problem was you couldn't always get the decal to relax around different parts of those cars. So on a pen blank, depending on how you turn your barrels, if it's straight across, you're not going to have a problem. Now, I turn my Sierras with a slight taper. So they're the largest in the center, and then they taper out on each end. So to get a decal to lay flat on that, it can be a little challenging. So after I put it on, apply my decal to where I'm putting it, I'll brush over Microsol. I even like to put it on the surface and then apply the decal to get it underneath of it as well. But the main thing is, once you put the Microsol on, you walk away from it and you let it do its thing. If you mess with it, you're going to destroy your decal. You just have to let it finish. You have to let it dry, and you'd be amazed at how well, when it's dry, how well that decal will take the shape of your pen blank.
Just to be clear, John, when you put this on, you have already finished your blank.
Yep.
It is, I can see it from here, and it
Yes.
already has a shine on it. It's already whatever glue boost or whatever you did to it, but it's ready to present as a normal finished pen.
So here's the downside to using water slide decals. You better like CA finishes, because you're going to do 2 to every pen blank that you finish. It's very important to have a smooth surface. Acrylics, you probably don't have to, but what I found is if I apply a nice finish and then I micro mesh it, steel wool, micro mesh it, and polish it. Now, I'm not going to add any finish to it because I don't want there to be any impurities. So after I finish that pen tube and it is complete, I'm happy with the finish. I would assemble it and sell it as is. It's shiny, it's smooth. Then you're going to apply your decal. And after that dries, you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to apply a second CA finish. One thing that I will do is I'll wipe that pen barrel off with denatured alcohol before I start my decal process, because if there's any impurities in a polish, or if I've left any sanding debris on there, I want to make sure that it's good and clean. So, Dean, if you want to roll the video, I'll kind of talk through it so that you understand what's going on with it.
Yep.
But I wanted you to see everything before we got to that point, because I'm hoping that it will kind of answer some of your questions as we move forward.
Here it comes. We'll put you in the corner.
So I start out on MS Word, and I usually make my images in several sizes. And before I print them out on my paper, my decal paper, I'll do a test print on regular white paper. That way I can cut them out. I can hold that piece up to my pen barrel to see if that's the size that I want. But I usually do more than I need, because it's nice when it turns out to have extra on the sheet. So I'll usually fill a sheet or half a sheet. And then I'll go in and I'll select my settings, which I always select the high quality, and I'll always select the gloss for the paper. Other than that, this is just MS Word, and it's just a regular inkjet printer. So it prints through the printer just like any paper would, only you want to make sure that your decal gloss side is up. Obviously, you'll know if it's not. I've done that before too. So, but all of your decal paper will have instructions, and they're all pretty much the same thing. So I always let the ink dry completely overnight before I spray any sealer. And as you can see, I stand quite a bit of ways. I only show spraying it once, but I do that usually 3 or 4 times. And I'll let it cure overnight before I do anything, because I want to make sure that sealer's good and dry. So I'll use a small container of room temperature water. I found that if it's cold water, it doesn't always work so well, and hot water just cools off to room temperature. So I've already got a CA finish on this pen barrel. And so I've got my Microsol, some Q-tips to soak up the excess, and I've got some Delrin bushings. So I wipe off the blank real well with the alcohol, make sure that it's good and clean. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of Microsol to this blank. And I want to set, oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to lay this decal. As you can see, I trimmed it very closely to my printed edge, as close as I could without cutting through the ink. And I'm just going to lay it on top. I don't want to submerge it, because if I do, my decal is going to float up off the paper. I just want that paper backing to soak up everything that I can before I'm able to slide it off of the background. So then I apply some Microsol to the back of the, or to the pen blank itself. And then I'm going to slide this decal film, and it's basically that it looks almost like a small piece of cellophane. It's going to slide. As you shift it back and forth, you'll see it move from the paper. And Once I realize that it's willing to slide off, you don't want to force it. If it's not ready, put it back in the water. But once I know that it's ready to slide off, I want to slide it just enough to grab the paper edge. And then I'm going to semi-position it where I want it. I like to have either microsol or water underneath of this blank, because that way you don't get shiny air gaps after it dries. So you want to make sure you have some liquid underneath of it, and just basically slide it off on the pen blank where you want it. The nice thing about this is you can always put a drop of water along the seam of it, and it will float that decal to where you can reposition it where you want. But once I get it semi close to where I want it, I start soaking up some water with a Q-tip and kind of touching the edges. That will help it kind of stick to the surface. And if I'm completely satisfied with how it's resting on there, then I'll soak up as much water as I can, and then I'll brush microsol over the top of it. I'll let that microsol basically do its thing. It'll sit there and relax the vinyl image or the plastic image, and it'll relax and basically take the shape of my pen blank. Now, in this case, I use a shop clamp light with a 125 watt heat light bulb that I picked up at the local Farm Mart, and because it put off some heat, and within about an hour, everything was dry, and I was able to start my second CA finish. And for that, I'm using the Glue Boost Medium. I like to use something that will sit a little thicker on the paper towel. If it's the thin stuff, you're liable to put too much abrasive on the decal and damage it. So I go over it very loosely with the medium, and I'll do that about 5 or 6 times to put a nice finish over it. And then I finish it like I would any other CA finish. I'll do my light sanding, my micro meshing, and my polishing. So it's very easy to do. There's a little bit of experimentation involved. When it comes down to feeling comfortable with that, let me see if. The more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable with the products that you're using, but it's not difficult. You just can't be impatient with those water slide decals. If you get too aggressive with them, or they're not dry yet, you're going to know, because you're going to either smudge it or rip it off the pen blank, and you'll be starting over. So it's just a quick, easy, inexpensive way to put a custom logo, a name, something on a pen. All my wood pens, I always put a CA finish on first. My acrylics, I usually put a CA finish on because it helps that background disappear. If there's not a background and you apply it to the straight acrylic, it's hard to make that clear cut edge disappear into the background of the acrylic. So with the CA finish, it sits on top a little more and not against that acrylic, and it's a little easier to make invisible. So I hope that was clear enough. The nice thing is, now that it's been played on this YouTube live, you can revisit it and watch it as many times as you want. And it's as simple as what it was. It's just, don't get in a hurry with it.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you much. I learned a lot, because I had no idea that it was that much to getting the prep for the label. The application of it looks pretty straightforward, but getting it prepped up for this is much more, many more steps than I thought there were involved in it. So thank you.
Like everything we do, there's a lot of drying time. Unfortunately, just a lot of drying time.
So before the next, we're gonna do the first giveaway now.
Yeah, Dean, if I can,
Before we do that, can I
Go ahead.
throw my next code on just to show
Yeah.
John did
Go
something
ahead.
real complicated, and watch how quick mine is.
why don't we wait until he starts people
Okay.
going with, and then
There
we
you
can
go.
do it, and they'll occupy the time. Okay.
That's an excellent idea. Let me get my
Yeah, the
window popped
giveaway is
Is
going
there,
to
wait,
be.
is there any questions? Dean, are there any questions?
Yep, you missed it, but it is on the video, so you can replay this as much as you want. It's very straightforward.
Yep.
Yeah, the giveaway is going to be a can of lacquer shots, and
No.
that's what we're thinking about.
I'm going to override you there. We're switching them around a little bit. So
Okay.
the first giveaway, as soon as I get ready, and as soon as I finish announcing it here, I'll put the term in the chat in a second. I'm getting that
Okay.
set up. Then Mark can go ahead and show it. The first
Okay.
one is Dawn tells me Exotics is going to start carrying both the water decal paper and microsol. So the first giveaway is going to be a pack of paper and a bottle of microsol.
Nice.
See, what I don't know is really important sometimes. Okay, good.
Now I know where to buy my next stash.
Take it home with you.
So Mark, if you want to go ahead and shoot, I'll get the
Well, just
Giveaway
tell
going.
them what the word is.
Let's go water. But wait,
right.
I gotta get it working.
It looks like you got people going in.
Looks like they're on
Yeah.
the way.
All right, so while they're doing that, I'm just gonna put my second coat on just to show how easy this is gonna be. This is completely dry to the touch.
Is it dry? He usually uses that.
I'm gonna hit it with some spray,
I'm sorry, I put that right in the wrong spot again.
and I'm gonna put it on my rod. I always do 5. I'm gonna let it hold for a second, and I'm putting it down.
Now, anyone that's used a lot of lacquer, you probably wonder how is it we were able to sit here and breathe and not go. It's not that overwhelming. There is an odor to it, but it's nothing like some of the lacquers I've used in the past where you spray it and you leave the room. So maybe I'm just nose blind and I like it, but it's not bad. So
I'm gonna do it once or twice more, and then you're gonna see I'll have a completely finished. While we're waiting on it, all I do is I'll put 3, maybe 4 coats on, and then all I'll do is I'll wait 24 hours as the drying time,
Dean said water.
and then I will
Water.
put it back on my lathe, 4/0 steel wheel, and then I will use one of the same finishing techniques you're gonna show tonight. I'm gonna use Novus 2 polish, and I'm gonna polish it up, and I'm done. That's all there is to putting on a finish that looks like that on a pepper mill.
Should we put that under the lights so I can see what it looks like, or is that-
Sure.
So put this back on there so you get a better idea where it was.
If I don't drop it.
Don't drop.
Promise not to drop it. Oop, just jump and bump everything else. So,
So you can see the shine lines already starting.
yep.
And that's after 2 pretty small coats. There's, you know, that they're not putting a lot of the lacquer on it because it does not run.
No, I just gonna say there's no runs or sags in it. It that's the beauty of this product. It goes on so nice.
And when it goes on, it goes on with a very thin coat, and that's the reason.
It's for anyone that's ever used any of those high volume, low density sprayers or high density, low volume sprayers. It's like shooting them out of a gun. It's just that good. It's a great spray can.
So one of the gentlemen asked about any restrictions on shipping. I don't know of any in the United States.
I don't either. We have been looking for more information about that. So to be honest with you, the answer is I'm not positive. But at the present time, we have not limited it, and we have not had any problems. Unfortunately, there's never a real official that you can ask. All the companies are going to say, "Oh no, it's not hazmat," and then USPS is going to have some guy that looks at it and says, "Oh, this is hazmat." So, you don't know for sure, but we're doing what we can to find out. And currently, we're treating it as if it is not hazardous material.
So Tommy asks how many coats. I'll tell you, I normally do 3, maybe 4, and that's going to be about it. Then I let it sit 24 hours, and as I said, 4/0 steel wool, and then I'll use Novus on top of it. Is the lacquer finicky with humidity as regular lacquer spray? I'll say, and you can answer the same thing, right? Because we're in 2 different areas. I will spray it down in my basement, which is kind of temperature controlled, but kind of cool still. And I've sprayed it out in my garage. Don't forget, I mean, right now we're in Chicago, and there's 90-degree temperatures and very high humidity.
High humidity.
And
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with
Yeah,
it.
I haven't either, and I'm about an hour south of Mark, and we pretty much share the same weather though. But same thing, I've never had any issues with any humidity.
Nope.
I sprayed a pen with it a couple of days ago. Actually, it was a handle that I was working on, and it was Spectraply, and it was about 75, 76 degrees. That wasn't all that bad, but it was off and on raining. So, and the area that I use is temperature controlled, but not humidity controlled. So I imagine I was at 75% humidity, and it went on and it dried. And honestly, part of what I was trying to do was to find out whether it was going to dry, and it did. I put 3 coats on it, and I had a nice look on it. As I say, it was SpectraPly, so SpectraPly is pretty easy to begin with, but yeah, it worked well. And if I had been using regular lacquer, I would have been basically putting on the first coat and then waiting 3 days. It definitely would not have dried.
Well, most lacquers say, wait, what, 5 to 7 or 10 days?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The curing time before
Yeah.
you can put it under
Yeah,
during
and
sanding.
this stuff is
7 to 10
24
days.
hours.
Yeah.
As we're,
Another
wait-
question.
as we're waiting for people to do continue to type water, I want to go back to one that was asked early on that was missed. Mark, I think it was Sarah asked, can you use acetone or something if you do get lacquer shot on your bushings, etc., to get it back off? Can you clean it off with acetone?
Oh, yeah, and I will do that even with Glue Boost or anything that I get on
Yeah.
it. So yeah, excellent question, and yes, you can use acetone to knock it all off.
I know someone had asked about how many coats on a pen.
Yep.
I did a pen. I actually painted stripes on it and filmed using the lacquer shot over that. I think I did 5 or 6 coats, and I probably waited 5 to 10 minutes in between each layer. And I probably wouldn't have added that many coats had it not been for some of the pens, the stripes I had painted. You could just feel were slightly raised, and I wanted a smooth surface, so I added probably a couple extra coats than I needed. But I would say 5 coats would be adequate.
So Sarah asks, can you use magic juice on top of the lacquer shot? I can't see why you couldn't, but I will tell you, I just personal opinion, I don't find anything that I have to do on it. I'll put it back on the lathe. I'll spin it off at on the lathe with 4/0 steel wool, and then I'll use the Novus 2 polish on top of it. And the one thing that you can't see on this demo is when you touch this stuff, it is silky to the touch. And so hopefully when I do the last couple coats on it, we'll put it back under the light and we'll take a really close look to see if you see any lemon peel or any of that stuff. Orange peel. You won't see any peel on it.
So this lacquer shot is a finish. And so it will require a little bit of effort after you apply. Like Mark said, there's still some, whether you use a sanding paste or buffing, there's still a little bit to it. You can just spray it on and be happy with it. But if you really want it to shine, you're going to have just a little bit of effort afterwards.
Yeah, and for me, it's usually just 4/0 steel.
Yeah.
And then I like to do the Novus polish to give it that ridiculous shine to it after I'm done. So, all right. So, Dan,
All
are we ready?
right.
Did you
Yeah.
pick a winner?
I think we're slowed down enough. I'm going to go grab the winner right now. The winner is...
I hope it's me.
I don't
Just
remember
say
seeing you type water.
I drank water.
The winner I've got is Treasure Maze.
Ah, good. Somebody we haven't had before. Good. Congratulations, Treasure.
So I can't.
Yeah, the bottom.
Yeah, Dean, I can't read the last
There we
one.
Thank you.
Would you?
The issue I have with regular.
Oh yeah, all the time with clouding up.
Yeah. I've never had that with this.
The best I can tell you, Kenny, is that I've never had it with this, and I'll tell you. So John and Ed did point out a couple things, and I just want to be real clear on this one. You did point out that I do a lot of demos for, especially Glue Boost and Easy with Tools. There's no incentive. I don't get any pay for doing it with them. I just do what I think is the best product out there. So then this way I can get up, and if I decide that I'm going to change in a couple of years, because I am one of the few that is always trying something new, I'm going to try something new. So the question also comes up, what else was there?
Food safe.
Is it food safe? No lacquer is considered food safe. I've had long conversations with Rick on this one. And after 6 weeks, it does become, it will have no impact on food, but I'm always concerned about nicks or cuts or something in it. So I don't know that you would have to, that's a better question. If you wanted to ask Rick personally on it, you can always send that question to Glue Boost personally on it. Because for me, you know, I let all my stuff cure and I'm always fine with it. Notice when I was spraying it, I didn't spray I guess I missed one step, is that when I'm doing the inside of a pepper mill, I'm trying not to spray on the inside of the pepper mill. So are we ready to get into John?
God,
Me again?
yeah, again,
Huh? Holy cow.
acrylics in general.
All right, so well, that's you too, sir.
Oh, okay.
So, Mr. Acrylic Specialist.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go stand over there if you want me to be putting stuff under the light when you're here.
You're gonna have to go
Good
this
luck.
way.
You're not gonna get through that.
Unless you're crawling, you're gonna have to go this way.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna try to help you.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I just don't want you to hang yourself going through there.
Yeah. Especially because we get to laugh and nobody else would.
No, I understand.
No, we want to share that experience with everybody.
Oh,
So the biggest thing with any non-wood material is trying to figure out what it is, how it turns, how it cuts. And one of the biggest chores I think is drilling and sanding.
Yep.
You know, because if it's got a low flash point, it's going to melt on you. You know, when you're commercial stuff, you know when you're turning it because it stinks. The minute you cut it or drill it, it's nasty. I don't know about you, but I'd rather smell lacquer. So,
Well, I've only done a couple thousand of them, so I got used to it,
yeah.
and I don't mind it at all.
Well, that's how I feel about polyester resin that everybody runs.
I love
Yeah.
that stuff. I love
Yeah,
poly resin.
Great stuff. So I brought a few examples, and we'll probably pass them off to Mark as we go. But the main thing is, obviously, how do we finish? How do we know what finish we want to use for our acrylics? And with that said, it's all going to come down to the acrylic you're turning and your ability to turn it, right? Because you'll see people make comments about some people will sand it to get it just right. Other people can just do that finishing cut. They can peel out the surface and leave it better than what any of us are going to get to until we apply our finish and buff it. So your turning abilities are going to have a lot of impact on what you need to do with your blanks.
Is it okay to interrupt?
Mhm.
The other thing is it all also goes down to your personal taste on how much flair you want on the black.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people all over YouTube, all over IAP who say acrylic. First and foremost, they group all acrylic as acrylic. And I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. They group all acrylic as acrylic. And they also say it doesn't need any post finish.
Right.
And if that's the way you like it, that's fine. But I think you're going to show some great technique on this one.
So it's hard to show you some of this stuff, and I have used this as an example before. I took a standard Alumilite color cast that I poured, and I divided it in half. On this half, I applied a glue boost finish, and on this half, I left it naked. I then micro meshed the entire blank. I used Yorkshire grit as a sanding paste to knock it all down, make it all nice and pretty, and I buffed it. And I'll pass this to Mark in a little bit, but Ed, as you look at that, what do you notice between the naked side and the glue boost side?
I've seen that blank before, and particularly you can see the line right there. And from this side over, it's hazy, and from this side over, it's glass perfect.
And even the colors, don't you? I
Yeah.
feel like the colors under a CA finish or any finish, they're more vibrant, they're more bold. Your blacks, everything else. I don't know how well you'll see it on the camera. Unfortunately, nope. I guess I should show you too, huh? You're going to get some reflection from the lights.
Part of the problem that you have with anything that you're trying to do on camera, and I apologize for it here, all of my lighting in this is fluorescent. And in some cases, it's that new stuff with individual lights all the way down. So when you look at anything and try to see a reflection off of it, your shine lines aren't like they used to be. If you hold it at a bit of an angle, it gets better. But either way, you can't see the way that
You can't see the
yeah.
depth of color.
The best way to do it on this one, and I don't know if it's reflective on the TV, is look at the black
Right.
Yeah,
So if I look here, this black, I don't want to say it's dull, John, but
Right.
it's
But
not
it's-
as
It's
vibrant
not as bold.
as
Right.
the black that's on that side.
Right.
So if you're looking at the black, that's to me is where you can really see it. And you can kind of see the light line across it, but that's pretty much all the way across.
And I use this in one of my videos on using Glue Boost
Mhm.
and for a finish. And so I actually have a better close-up still picture of this. And like I said, it's one of those things that it's going to come down to what you're trying to achieve. For me, when it comes down to hand cast blanks, when you're dealing with epoxies, urethanes, these resins, even when they're cured and they're hard enough to turn, they're softer than the finish, especially CA, the Glue Boost, is a much harder, more durable surface than the resin itself. So you can buff them, you can shine them, it takes a little work, but you can get them to shine. But the problem is, through normal use, it's not going to last. It's not going to uphold as it will with a finish like CA on top of something like that, because CA is harder, especially than epoxy. Epoxy is a very soft resin, which is why it takes so much longer to cure and stays flexible for so long. So it really comes down to knowing the product you're working with and what you want to achieve. I brought some Conway Stewart, which I love these blanks, by the way. These are just, that's a Ciboplast, isn't it?
well, it's a product that is only made by that Italian manufacturer.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is. I have never known what it is. And if I ask them, they tell me
They probably wouldn't tell you. They
Yeah.
give you generic term. wouldn't they?
exactly. They give me a chemical compound that means nothing to me.
And that's the problem with a lot of these acrylics is when you buy them, they're going to be a Ciboplast, a Keranite, acetate. We're going to get all these words that most of us are all we know is it's plastic, right? It's a generic plastic term.
The way you can really make a difference from one to the next to the next, when you turn Keranite or you turn the other the Conway products,
So
they are very dense. You will feel when your tool hits it, you will
Mark.
feel it fighting back.
Get on
It is a very dense product.
and this is
And-
Keranite.
That therefore gives you the opportunity to get a really nice shine on it. But it is a product that requires a little bit
You might
more
have to
tool work,
move it
and
at an angle.
so
Yeah,
you
there you
will see that these products are a little more difficult to. I don't want to say difficult. They're a little harder to turn, and the term hard meaning as in dense. Then when you look at the traditional acrylics that you're getting from China mostly, they are the same product but not as dense. I believe the difference is.
That's an
I
acetate.
believe when you look at the products from Italy, I used to buy them in 4x4 sheets, believe it or not. And so I've seen huge pieces of this stuff. And it is truly very, very tightly made. It looks like a tremendous amount of pressure has been put on it. When you look at the same thing made in China, it isn't bad, but it is nowhere near as dense. So to me, that's how I find out. When people say, well, what material is that? I honestly can't tell you what material it is. I can tell you how it'll turn. And I can tell you what I would do to finish it. And I can, a lot of things I can tell you about it, but I've never found a manufacturer that's going to come back and tell you the truth about what it is. So I'm sorry, go
Conway
ahead.
Stewart. No, you're doing fine. So
Do you want to hit the picture-in-picture button, guys?
yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So this is the Conway Stewart one, and this resembles a lot of the Ciboplast and the different pebble type
Mm-hmm.
combined stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I find this stuff you don't want to over sand it. It can be a
Correct.
little heat sensitive.
It is heat sensitive.
Yeah, it's
Not as heat sensitive as some of the stuff, but yes, it is. You don't ever want to oversand. When you start getting something extremely hot, you're defeating your own purpose, because once it starts to melt, it's not going to shine worth a damn.
Yep.
So essentially, you want to make sure, and we've had this conversation, if you're using sanding pads, be aware that you are taking away your sense of feeling that get hot. And so when you try to make the material respond and give you a good polish, a good finish, you find that it fights back because it's getting hot and your fingers are behind this pad. You can't even feel that it's getting hot.
Well, and one of the phrases both John and I say all the time is remember, it's sandpaper. It's not shaping paper.
That's right.
You're not intending to change the shape of anything you're doing with sandpaper.
That's right. And I will say one other thing about sanding. I am very reluctant to sand with water. So when you hear me talk about sanding at all, the way that I sand is avoid water at almost any cost. Water was introduced into sanding so that you would reduce the heat. My answer to that is, why did you create the heat? So, that's the difference between what I do and what other people typically will do and what the industry says these days. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope, you're doing fine.
Okay.
Those are some of the common blanks that we find on the market that are being cast from us hobbyists in our shops, and we can try to mimic some of the commercial stuff out there. It's not as easy as most of us wish, because the type of material and the fact that our stuff sets up so much quicker than a lot of the stuff in the industries. They have a little more time to play with it and get it to bond. So, but with that said, we have 3 different resins we're using. We're using epoxies, we're using urethanes, and we're using polyester resins. The only resin that I've ever found that I felt I didn't have to really work at putting a finish on was polyester.
Mhm.
And anyone that's ever turned a feather blank or most of the snake blanks out there, you've turned polyester resin. It's not the funnest stuff to cast or pour, but it's really great to turn, and it shines so easy, so effortlessly. Your urethanes and your epoxies, you're going to have to work at it a little more. And so that's where tonight comes into play. Back to the main one here. Tonight comes into play is we want to talk about some things that are on the market that we use to help us achieve the finish that we want to get. Is there any questions or concerns or anything that anyone wants to ask about resins themselves? Because no one's been turning resin in this industry longer than Ed. I mean, I can say that pretty confidently.
That is true. I started turning resins in 1996. And at that time, the available resins were mostly coming out of Italy. And I was rather industrious in my youth. So I found out where and started buying it directly from Italy through a source in Great Britain. But essentially, at that time, there was no internet. And without an internet and handing somebody just, here's your blank, and notably alternate ivory was at that time being handled by Craft Supply. Honestly, I don't think any of them were turning it either. They were trying. I'm not taking anything away from them. But the instructions that you got at that time were turn it slowly and use a scraper. And today, knowing what I know about turning resins, probably the hardest combination in the world would be to use a scraper and turn it slowly. You are much better off to turn your lathe as fast as it'll go, as long as you're comfortable with that speed. Anytime you're uncomfortable turning, you're not going to succeed.
There's also a couple names that I saw up here. Do you remember? I remember the original series of snakeskin blanks, where they would actually recommend that you use the car file and file the blank down till you got it really close to the end, and then turn just the end, because that's how hard and dense that stuff was.
Well, no one knew how to turn it. There was no place, no resource. Now we all get together on IAP and talk and go back and forth, and things get a little better and a little better.
No, we do it on Thursday nights with exotic blanks.
And if you ask questions, we'll answer them. But the thing is that then there was no place to go. I went down to the basement with 10 blanks and came up to the kitchen after I was finished with 1 finished pen and 9 that I had thrown away.
Me too.
Because
Me too.
I had no idea what I was doing wrong, but I kept on trying. So yeah, when you say I've turned an awful lot of it, yes, I've turned an awful lot of it. And at one time, I had bins that were garbage can size full of attempts that didn't work. So it takes some time, and like everything else, it takes practice. But after you get to the point where you put it on the lathe, you turn it, you touch it with a tool, and it starts to make a smell. And at that point, you know what you're dealing with.
Because it doesn't get any better.
And is it,
You know what smell it is.
Yeah.
You know, okay, this one's going to shatter like that. The other
Yeah.
thing is when you pick up the blank, if you look at the edge of it and it looks like it's been chewed on, that's going to be a very brittle blank.
Yeah.
So be prepared for it because it's going to fight back.
Yeah, if it didn't cut clean when they mailed it to you,
Yep.
don't expect it to turn any easier.
That's right.
as a complete aside too, another big invention in our industry was Jeff Brown and doing IAP.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was before Facebook, before the internet, but we were sharing information amongst friends
Yep.
so much better and faster when Jeff came out with IAP. I know there were other ones out there,
Yep.
but Jeff was the predominant one and he focused on us.
Yep.
Yeah, because we could all share what didn't work.
Right.
It's funny. Early on, there was a question in the chat that somebody asked us, "Hey, when you're turning, why do some things turn great and other things turn just like you're chewing up gravel?" And I can say I started turning about 20 years ago, and some of the first blanks I had were Acrylister, which was PR with
Yes.
like 4 gallons of hardener in it, and you
Yes.
definitely received those, and they were chunked on the edges long before you got to a tool.
Yeah, I always tell people they come pre-chipped for you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's just knowing your material. That inlace acrylaster, it's beautiful.
The finish on it is ridiculously beautiful.
It is. They're beautiful blanks. The problem is you can't turn them like you would, say, a normal Alumilite urethane blank. You can't just go in there and cut them, and you have to finesse them a little bit and convince them to come to shape because they'll explode on you real quick. And it all comes down to how they're manufactured, right? Some resins are manufactured hotter than others. Like Dean said, they add more accelerator, so to speak, to the mix when they're mixing this raw resin so that it cures quicker and you don't have orange and blue come together and make brown, right? They stay separate, but they're able to swirl them. So it comes down to a manufacturer thing. So it's really just comes down to understanding the resin that you're using, knowing what it is. Good luck with commercial blanks. I don't care to turn most of them. They're all really neat, but after I started casting my own, it's just kind of what I like urethane blanks.
Well, there are people on the board too saying that they still put a CA finish even over some of the other ones because they also, as you pointed out like 10 minutes ago, it just gives you that added extra pop and durability.
Sometimes I've told people before, I can turn one of my own casts, and if it's a color cast, I can get a quicker finish and a better finish by taking 5 minutes and doing glue boost as opposed to 10 minutes doing a sanding paste and then a wet sand and then a buffing. It's just quicker and it's a better finish. So, and until you experiment with it, that's the only way you're going to figure it out is play around with the stuff and see what you like.
Someone's asking for a friend. How do you fix a chip in a piece of resin?
So
First thing is you don't chip it.
So
that's the obvious.
This is for a friend of hers.
Oh, friend of ours, I know.
I can tell you, because coming from someone who's chipped a lot of resin, there's nothing worse than coming in at the final cuts with a skew and working my taper and just getting that nice peel across it to leave a nice shine, and then get too loose maybe with my hands, and the skew jumps and catches the blank and it comes down and chips.
And it's safe to say I've had commercially made blanks that have small little air bubbles in it.
Yes, that's
or rake
And that-
across
there's
or
no-
quick.
And there's no difference between a
Yeah.
chip and those air bubbles.
That's true.
So I will say, if you're going to use anything to fill a chip, the best thing I found is Glue Boost, the CA, and
But the technique is important.
it is very important. You can't just fill that one time and be done with
That's
it,
right.
because what you're going to do is trap air. And now I know a lot of people say they have good luck with the UV curing resins. They may. They've probably spent a lot more time doing that with that product than I have. My go-to product, if I get a chip and a blank, the first thing I'll do is I'll go for my Glue Boost. And if I use the Blue Label, which is the medium, I use very little. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll place a drop next to the chip out and I'll drag it in with a straight pin. That way I'm not just dropping the resin in the hole and the air can't get out of it. If you fill it too quickly, you're going to trap air bubbles and you're going to see them, because that resin and that CA finish, when it's all done, is going to magnify everything in it. And that little bitty speck is going to look this big to you.
Another thing that I've had good luck with, and maybe you guys have never tried it or have the others, is if I'm going to do it, I have that little chip in there, I will spray it first with glue dry.
Yeah.
I will spray the blank first with glue dry, so that when that glue goes into it, it's already curing. And there's no chance, or sorry, not no chance, a less of a chance of it getting a bubble underneath it. So I'll hit the blank with glue dry before I'll actually put my CA on it.
This is another case, however, where size matters. If you're talking about an air bubble, as Mark says, all of these techniques are going to work, kind of. I mean, I've never found a technique that was flawless. But the other possibility, if you have a good sized chunk out, then you're hard pressed to use CA. You're much better off to get the epoxy out and make a little slurry of epoxy with either the material color that you're working with, if it's an acrylic or whatever, and you're trying to match a color, good luck, but do the best you can to get close to that color, and then use that slurry to fill in your hole. Now, if it's wood, you have a little better chance at it, because you can either use sawdust or I used a lot of ground coffee. Whenever there's a good sized hole. Actually, good sized, larger holes are easier to fix than little holes, because the little holes, trying to keep it from getting a bubble in the bottom of it it's an art form. And yes, everything that we've said is worthwhile. If you put the little drop next to it and then ease it in, you are better off. I will use thin, John will use medium, but
I like thin too. It really all comes down to what it is, how deep it is, or large it is. I usually like to use ultra thin, like Sarah mentioned. Also, I see she did. I'll coat the whole surface with the ultra thin, and I won't even spray it yet. I'll just let it wick in, because that stuff is so thin, it'll soak in and kind of stabilize the surface within, say, a 32nd of an inch or so. And then I'll lightly spray it, and then I'll start working on the hole. But if I can fill that hole before I get down to the finished size, it's much easier to hide than completely turning, because it's easier to then go back to turning and turn off the excess glue or epoxy or whatever you're using, as opposed to trying to sand that little spot flush without it affecting the rest of the surface.
Well, and you give that initial set of glue something to adhere to.
Yep.
I've had it, maybe it's just me, or maybe a friend of mine told me they had it, where you get that little spot in there, you fill it, and then you go to sand it, and it just pops right out again, because there was nothing for it to ever adhere to. And so I agree with you 100%. Fill it when I see it.
Yes.
If I think it's going to be below my finished surface, bite the bullet on it and then do it. And one quick question: when you use epoxy, do you have to let it wait longer then, or because with CAs you can typically then spray it and finish it right there and then? If you're using the epoxy, are you going to give it a little bit more time to set up?
usually overnight.
Okay.
Usually I will
And that's what I would figure.
epoxy over the top of it. I'll have a hill.
Yep.
There is no doubt about it. There will be a spot there that you can see. But my procedure at that point is put that one over and do whatever else I plan on doing that night, and then come back in the morning and approach that.
Okay. Yep.
You don't want to rush anything. When you screw it up, do your best to give it time to recover before you try to do it again.
Yeah, I've got T Grove's question on the thing. I think it's perfect. We've been talking about air bubbles a lot. John, you want to give a 2-second answer to why they need a pressure pot?
Oh, for casting?
Yeah. He says, is it necessary is a pressure pot necessary to cast your own blanks? We're talking about bubbles, so perfect timing.
Yes. So here's a problem you're going to find when you get into casting. It may not be visible on the surface, especially if you're doing a color cast, but sooner or later you're going to cut into them. Once everything is sanded, our camera just left.
My bad. That was me. Sorry, I bumped the button.
Okay. So once I thought it was my vision really going bad on me.
My
I was
bad.
squinting too much. So a lot of your resins, when they cure, will create a gas, and that gas creates air bubbles within the resin. Polyester resins don't require a pressure pot. I use one every time because if I spend a week creating two clear cast, two bond blanks that I want to clear cast, why do I want to risk air bubbles when all I have to do is put it under pressure? Some epoxies, they'll say, especially the thin pour stuff, not a big deal. They'll hit them with the torches or the heat guns to bubble them, pop the bubbles. They'll pour them in layers. I don't use a lot of epoxy because I don't like how long it stays flexible, and the UV qualities are usually a little poorer. But sometimes projects require certain resins. So for me, I'm set up to use a pressure pot every single time because it presses all of that resin and it compresses the air in it to where you can't see it. It won't eliminate it. You just can't see it. Recently, I had a gentleman share a picture with me that I used at a demo I did at the MPG. And it was a great picture because it talked about, he misunderstood one of my demonstrations where I talked about stabilizing and casting. And so he had used a stabilizing pot for his resin, which is fine if you want to pull air bubbles out of a deep void or something. I don't usually do that because the resin curing time is so short. I just put it under pressure and it usually takes care of it. But stabilizing, when you pull a vacuum on resin, it pulls air out of objects and it magnifies them. So I wish I had the picture here, but I will share it in the future on one of these or in a video for Ed. But pressure pots are there to eliminate air bubbles. So is it necessary? Probably you might get away with it 5% of the time, but is it worth the risk to spend all that time and material, because casting materials aren't cheap. And if you're in a business, your time is money. And if you're under a deadline to get something done, you really just want to pull it out of the mold so you can turn it. I've thrown more resin away than well, I've cried over resin before when I've had to throw it in the garbage. And it's just, pressure pots will eliminate a lot of that problem.
Well, this is not on casting, but it's related to what we're talking about. Can you give 1 minute on why you need to dry the wood? Because if you don't dry the wood and you go to turn it, you see all these bubbles that we're talking about, right?
Right.
These little pock marks, and it looks like it's a turning technique or you did something wrong casting, and it's simply moisture in the wood. So
Yeah, and with anything, even with turning, right? We want to deal with dry objects. Casting is no different. The only difference is with casting, you really need it dry. Resin and moisture don't get along. Epoxy is forgiving. Polyesters are forgiving. In fact, some polyester dyes are water-based. But when it comes to urethane, which is probably 90% of what I use, it has zero tolerance for moisture. And if you're casting things that have moisture or even humidity on them, it may fog your clear coat up. It may add white streaks in your resin, and it'll create weak spots because your resin won't bond to those objects properly. So a pressure pot and dry materials are definitely something that's going to save you a lot of money and time.
So thank you for answering that one,
Yes.
because the symptoms look the same.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes to be said even with embedded object casts, right? So if we're turning something embedded with pine cone, if these pine cones aren't 100% dry by the time we cast them, then what you're going to have is a lot of swelling in your resin. And after you finish that pen, you're going to go over it and you're going to feel high spots or bumps. And I can pass this over to Mark. Hybrids are something else that are very important to put a CA finish or seal. I like to use CA over hybrid blanks because you're dealing with two different materials here. You're dealing with resin and you're dealing with something, whether it be pine cones, acorn caps, sticks, you name it. So we're dealing with different densities. Different materials are going to finish differently. You want to make all of that uniform. And I think the easiest way to do that is to seal it. So I'll use an ultra thin CA so that it soaks in and stabilizes the surface. And then I'll build my CA finish over the top and then finish it. That way it's uniform. You're not going to feel your objects within it. And it's not, if you don't finish it, then you have to worry about humidity and atmosphere changes, and it's going to start swelling and it's going to make your blanks move. So, back. So when it comes to embedded objects, I always seal them first with ultra thin CA, and then I build a proper CA finish over the top of them before I finish it. And I'll do that also with my hybrids, because again, we're dealing with two different mediums. We're dealing with two different densities. And as you sand these, you're going to notice it's easy to sand something out of round if you get real aggressive with it, because resin is harder than some of the woods unless it's stabilized. So you may sand it out of round. So you want to be careful about that. But applying a finish to all of it, something that's going to soak in, seal it all, bond it all, and give you one uniform finish. So as you grab that and hold it, you don't feel those raised areas or bumps in them. So with that said,
I think we've covered the topic. Have we not?
we have covered types of acrylics and some finish options. Real quick, I will say, and we're going to go over these more. We don't have all the finishes, obviously, that a lot of you guys are using. We brought what we had on hand, and there is a difference between sanding pastes and finishes. I know a lot of people use some of these sanding pastes as a finish. When we talk about things like Yorkshire grit or some of the sanding paste, help me out here, some of the sealers and whatnot, like Mylands has a sanding sealer as well. These are meant to help seal and smooth something out, and not just as a standalone finish. But as we move forward, we'll talk more about how we use them. But I think
It also depends on material. There's a lot of people out there who will say, and I know this is more about acrylics than wood, but who will say that they like the luster of a natural wood, and that a CA finish makes it look like a car dashboard.
Mhm.
Completely understand that one. But the nice part about it is when you talk about a CA finish on something, we're basically taking that piece of wood and making it a piece of acrylic.
Sure.
And
Well,
you don't have to worry about long-term maintenance on it.
we can change the appearance of that finish, right? It doesn't have to be high gloss.
Right.
If I don't, absolutely, I can knock it down with 4/0 steel wool, or I can go backwards in my micro mesh. If I get to 9 on that micro mesh and it's shining, and all of a sudden I realize, man, I don't know if I like that, I can jump back down to 4 or 5 and hit that and knock down the shine, or even maybe 3. I probably wouldn't go any lower than 3, but you can knock down that and leave maybe a satin or a semi-gloss luster on it. It doesn't always have to be a high gloss shine. It really comes down to what you want. And I always argue this, it's just my opinion, right? But when somebody says, I don't put a gloss finish on wood because I like the feel of wood. Any finish that you put on wood, you're not touching the wood, you're touching the finish. So at that point, it comes visually, right? If I want it to look like wood, then I'm not going to finish it to a high shine. So it's going to, my brain's going to tell me, I really like this wood. Look at it. I can see it's wood. I feel it's wood. It doesn't look shiny like plastic. So I think that's where we start to play with the sheen in our finish. And that goes a long way with what people are looking for, especially with woods.
So are we ready? The next is now moving you over to the lathe to actually show the finish, right?
So are we up for another
Yeah,
giveaway?
And I'll spray while you're talking.
I was going to say, do you need to do another coat, Mark?
That's going to spray some more lacquer for us.
Okay.
So that works out really well. The next giveaway is going to be a can of lacquer.
Lacquer shot.
Thank you.
No
I
problem.
could not think of the word to begin with an S for the life of me there. A can of
I got it
lacquer.
written down in case I forget it.
A can of lacquer shot. And the phrase to type while Mark is spraying this is going to be spray.
Okay.
Nice and easy.
So I'm gonna wait till I see somebody start typing and spray.
Type spray.
And-
there we go.
So as that's coming up and Mark's spraying, I just want to throw out there, there's a big difference in your choice of finish when it comes to your projects. So pens tend to be a little easier to finish than, say, a bowl or a platter. So you're going to see more of the oils and the wax and things like that in larger turnings. I feel, as opposed to some of the smaller stuff.
It's amazing.
And again, it smells good
Yeah, it doesn't smell bad at all.
Just show it under the light.
Yeah. without touching it.
You know, in a minute or two, you're going to be able to touch it anyway.
Camera 2.
But once again, if you want to put the other block around it so you can see what it.
Yeah, it's over there.
They know what dull wood looks like.
And we can
But look
see
at the
it. It
shine
looks
already
really
coming
good.
on that. Yeah.
So I think was asked real early how many coats. That's 3 coats.
And they're quick coats.
Yeah, they're very thin coats. And it's part of the glory of this, in my opinion, is the fact that it dries, and it dries so well because you're not putting much on it.
Yeah.
You're really just squirting it a little bit, and you got a beautiful look there. Now, if you look at it and you've seen shine lines for a million years, once that is dried, and you go back and hit it with 4-ounce steel wool, or I usually use 600 grit paper.
Yep.
Those areas now that look a little bit like there's a texture to them will go away, and it'll turn into a nice straight shine line.
Mhm.
So, you know, when you look at it, if you've not looked at these things over your life, and
John, you might want to throw the green and yellow one under the light. If you
yeah, that'll show you how it actually,
either the green and yellow or the Spectraply one under the light.
when they
That's post.
yeah, once they've had their final treatment, then you start to see a shine line that's absolutely going to be straight. You see, if you look at the sides of that, you can see that it looks straight. And if you look at particularly on the cap, it's very defined.
Well, and especially when you look in the shine lines, you know, you can see how smooth it is.
Yep. So yeah, the reason I bring that up is because when I looked at that, I thought, yeah, I know what's going to happen next, but I'll bet you a lot of people don't. So
And
Yeah.
let me just point out while we're waiting on this one, the hardest thing about this is if you notice that the casting material goes all the way through,
mhm.
it's because I do the 3D printed knobs that you guys have
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
and I've got a 3D printed knob in there.
Oh, how everything lines up,
Yeah,
top
so
and
that
bottom.
It all lines up on it. If
Yep.
you want to throw the Spectraply one up there too, that one's got a beautiful shine line.
And again, these are 3 coats of 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah. No more than 4.
Of lacquer shot, and it's new to us too, guys. So, you know, don't get the impression that we're jumping up and down. But by the same token, it is the best, most easily used and best results I've seen out of anything I've used.
Yeah, John and I have the benefit. I've been using this about a year now.
Okay, well, that's a big benefit. It's only been out for a couple of months for
Right,
everybody else.
right.
So yeah, you guys have been.
So
It's been right now, John, maybe 9 months to a year that we've been playing with this stuff.
Yeah,
So-
probably. Go
there's a
ahead.
question on here for Ed, but I think all 3 of you might not be able to answer it because it'd be interesting to see. I think all 3 likely have different questions. There's 2 of them. What specific brand sandpaper do you guys prefer? And somebody says, do you guys wet sand up with 600 grit? So I think
Well, we're going to
Both
get
of
into that coming up, right?
Yep.
John's going to be doing that.
all right then.
I'll tell you very quickly that my answer, I bought a bunch of sandpaper many years ago because I was going to sell it at Exotics. And that never materialized. So I have a bunch. And it is Clean Sport, and I love it. And now I'm trying to replace some of the grits, and it is a difficult thing to replace. It's not easy to find, and they're in Germany. And so, yeah, there still is the possibility that I'll decide to sell it because it is a very good product, and I've used it for 15 years.
The nice thing is that as your technique gets better with tool technique, you're starting at much, much higher.
That's true.
And I mean, a lot of times you can get away with, you know, a 200 grit, 300 grit, and then go right into your micro meshes.
Well, I started at 400 and do 400 and 600. And yes, people have written to me and say, well, the way you handle a skew makes all the difference.
Oh,
I'm
100%.
sorry about
Yeah.
that, but that's the way I handle a skew. So, you know, it's just when you get done, take one pass with a sharp skew and you don't have a bad look. And that's, I take a lot of passes and I don't care what happens, but that last one, try to make it a good one.
So Bryce asks, how do you finish the lacquer? I'm simply going to let it, I will let it dry overnight. 24 hours at most, but usually overnight. Put it back on my lathe, and then that's the only time I'll put it back on my lathe. I'll use 4/0 steel wool to knock it all down. If I do have to find any kind of a little lump on there, I will use some form of wet dry and a wet. And then after that, I'm simply gonna use the Novus 2 polish on top of it.
And as some of you have already seen, I posted up. Betty Klein is our second
I
winner,
bet
the winner of the
that was
lacquer
bad.
shot.
Really?
For those of you who don't know,
All right.
I alluded to somebody telling us that they'd like to see this presentation. That was Betty Klein. So
Oh, that's
it's
funny.
a nice thing for that to turn out that way. Thank you.
And ironically, I run the drawing, so there's no cheating here, and I had no idea.
Well, all I know is Betty does a lot of promoting of my videos on Facebook, so I always appreciate her too. Also, so you've got 3 fans, Betty.
Okay, onward and upward.
Right. So, Mark, you were just talking about Novus and
Yes.
triple out. So this is how these are going to show up, right? Your triple out steel wool, or your 4/0 steel wool, your Novus, and I label mine. I've had this since 2017. I'm still using it, but they come in these little fine bottles, squeeze bottles, and there's the number 2, which is for your average fine scratches, and then there's number 3 for the heavier scratches.
Can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
One thing that we've done, and I gotta say, my wife came up with this idea. Can I borrow that?
Yeah.
So I buy the Novus in the big gallon of it, and then we will put it literally in
And so
hand soap dispensers. So all I got to do is squeeze it onto my paper towel, and I get the perfect amount on there when I'm doing it. So this was something I give credit to my wife for.
So let me chuck up a blank real quick and find one that we can actually see. I'll grab a couple of these.
I was gonna just
yeah.
get out of the picture for
Yeah,
John,
that's what you're gonna try to do.
and then
We'll let you come through here, buddy.
Might as well grab everything.
We'll make room for you. How's that for a shot?
All right.
While you're reshuffling, I have to say, during your little conversation there, John, I had a funny little thought that came to me as you were talking about throwing away resin, having screwed it up. I think you've thrown away more resin than most of us in a full lifetime will actually create successfully.
So
well, if he was better, but yeah, see,
You think after
Sadly-
14 years he'd make it work? Wouldn't you think?
sadly, yes. Especially when it comes to snakes and feathers. It's not uncommon. You know, we talk about humidity and the weather elements and how they can affect our finishes. They can also affect our castings. So on a bad day, I cast 36 pheasant feather blanks and had 2 turn out to be good.
in
So-
all fairness, though, another thing though, I don't want to scare people. In all fairness, there's a difference between what you're casting and if I wanted to get into casting,
Yeah.
is if I take a look. Not that I could do a pheasant feather blank, but let's say a snakeskin
yes.
blank. Well, or a snakeskin. If I see flaws in it that I know that I'm going to turn off, I'm going to be fine with the blank.
Sure.
You don't have that.
Right.
Those are the ones I keep for myself.
Right. Well, or you give them to me,
Or- yeah.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
But if I see something in there that I know that I'm going to turn off, I can get away with it, and I'm going to turn them off. Yours have to be perfect all the way through, and that's a complete difference in I call myself a utility caster, and you're a professional caster.
Well,
Mine is a utility. I use it because it's something that I'm going to use for myself.
as I usually say, right? I mean, I cast more than the average person. I cast 7 days a week. I'm in and out of the shop. So after I retired from the job that gave me my pension, I now cast resin for a living. So it allows me to learn a lot. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, because it isn't always successful. But that's the fun side for me. You know,
Well, the
tried something new, and hey, if it turns out great, if it didn't, don't do that again.
Well, and the flip side is for me too is it's rare. I make my living making pens and turning. That's my living now. I retired also, and I do like 28 shows a year, and it's been fun. That's why I like hanging with you guys. Is this is our living.
Yeah.
So
So
So,
John,
we'll talk
before you get your other thing,
Yes.
talking about fun and learning, a little birdie sent me a picture. I thought you could talk to this picture.
Uh-oh. So that is it. That is why you don't put resin in stabilizing pots or tanks. You put resin in casting pressure pots. This is what happens to your resin when you put it in a vacuum tank and suck all the air. Think you're sucking all the air out. In reality, you're enlarging the bubbles and you're pulling the resin out of the mold. So this is a great learning picture. I was so happy that when I asked him, can I use this in my demo? He said, absolutely. Because a lot of people think, hell, can I just put my resin in a stabilizing tank and pull the air out? Well, it doesn't quite work like that. Unfortunately, resin has different ideas. And in this case, those bubbles expand 10 times larger than they should be, and the resin comes right out of the mold. So tell that little bird thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so what we'll start out with is just showing you how to apply some of this stuff. In this case, again, there's a difference, right? I like Yorkshire grit. I use this both. It's a sanding paste, so I will use this before and after I apply a finish. Once I put a blank on the lathe and I've turned it down,
can I? I don't want to. Do you want to? Can you give a quick overview of the two different pastes, the black and the white? Do you only use white?
oh no, yeah, sure.
Or
So-
are you gonna do that on your? In your demo?
No, I will give an overview. So this is the original version of it, and this is for the average scratches, and this is for the micro fine stuff, more for the acrylics and the resins. So
Yeah, for wood, you're going to be fine with the black.
Yep.
If you're going to go to the resins, then you're going to want to go that extra step away.
in some of my CA finishes, I've been told that sometimes I'm a little overkill because I'll apply a CA finish. I'll turn the blank down. I'll hit it with the 4/0 steel wool, knock it down real nicely. Sometimes I'll use a microfine. If I like the way it looks, I think I'm good. I'll go straight to a CA finish. I'll apply it. Then I'll start all over again and CA it, micro mesh it, wet sand it, hit the microfine, and then I'll take it to the buffing wheel. So it really all comes down, for me, when I'm done turning a blank, I stand under the light and I move it around and I look at it. If I see scratches or any imperfections in that, then I'm not done with it yet. When I look at it like this, it might look beautiful. But when you hold it under light and you can actually look at an angle and see all the reflections, you'll notice any of the scratches that are in there. That's when you're going to see them.
When I did YouTube videos, there was one YouTube video where someone complained that I take the pen over to a buffing wheel and I buff it out after I've done all the other work because they
It's another step.
for me, it's just another step and it gives me one more chance to get there is no perfect, but a better finish on anything.
That
I mean, let's-
argument was made years ago on the IAP about what is going backwards.
Right.
And the difficulty with that is, yes, in some cases, you may be going backwards. 12,000 grit may be finer than the buffing with AAA. I won't argue with that, but I will tell you, you rarely stop at AAA. You buff with AAA and then you go to white diamond.
Right,
And white
and then you go
diamond
to
is thin.
flannel.
So,
Yeah.
you're going into a regimen
Yep.
that works.
Yep.
So if your person watching and telling you how to do it doesn't like it, the good news is that it's free to put videos up on YouTube. Do it yourself.
Well, and that's the whole point of what we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
Is
There's a
if
lot of
you-
different
if
ways.
all three of us were asked, how do you finish a wood pen? We're going to get three completely
right.
different answers.
That's right.
Because when John's going to go into Glue Boost, you two do it completely different than I do.
Yep.
And you do it different than John and Ed. I will, as we've said, right? I will start with the blue and then I'll go to the orange. You guys do it differently.
Mhm.
I'll do it with the lathe completely off. I know you guys like to do it with the
Mhm.
lathe on. That's the beauty of doing all this stuff.
That's
And
right.
that's why I enjoy when you ask me to come out here to do these demos is they're going to leave with three different opportunities
That's
of
right.
way to do it.
That's
And there's an equal chance that I'm going to learn something new from one of you two.
Well, that's rare. But okay.
Well, and the other thing is, you let your blank tell you what it needs.
Yeah.
I don't finish everything the same way. I look at the blank.
Right.
after I turn it and I've got it sanded down to shape, and then after I'm done, I'll sand up to 600 dry. Then I'll take 4/0 steel wool, turn the lathe on high, and hit it. Well, we'll do it. Do I have bushings laying over there? Are there bushings somewhere?
Yeah, they're right here.
Oh, here they are. I see some. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I got these from you last time I was here.
Do you want me to go to overhead?
Yeah, go ahead to the overhead.
Okay, you needed those, sorry. Now I understand what you're asking.
How are we centered? Oh, we're good, aren't we?
Yep.
All right. All right. So a lot of times
Best cameraman in the industry.
what I'll do after I've turned this down, I've dry sanded up to 600. Of course, then I bump the camera. But what I like to do then is I'll turn the lathe on high. Dean, how are we with volume? I'm actually standing further away from the camera.
You're not too bad. You're still pretty good. Just keep talking
Okay.
at a good volume. You're fine.
So I'll turn this lathe on high, and I'll come underneath of it. Now, notice how I'm holding this steel wool. I'm holding it with an open hand. So if it catches and gets ripped out of my hands, I'm not getting pulled into anything. I know a lot of guys will say I don't ever approach the lathe with steel wool, anything turning, because it can get pulled out of your hand, and it absolutely can, and it has. So I hold it openly, apply my pressure with a couple of fingers under it, and if it gets ripped out, it's going to wrap. I'm going to stop and unpeel it. But that's how I prepare every blank that I turn. This same way. I'll dry sand it up to 600, and then I'll use the 4/0 steel wool. Now I'm going to look at that blank. Of course, I just roughly turned this yesterday, so you can see some divots in here. I'm not going to be too concerned about it. I want you to focus basically on the finished process. So how I would approach this, because it's polyester, I would go straight to a micro mesh. PR resin shines up because it's the hardest resin you're going to deal with. But if it's something that I want to apply a little bit of sanding paste to, this is how I do it. Come in here with our Yorkshire grit, a dry paper towel, and I'm just going to take a little bit, and that's probably more than what I need, but I'm going to come on here and just wipe it on a blank. And then I'm going to turn that lathe back on high. I'm going to work across. I'm going to move in a little bit in a dry spot. If I were going to apply a finish over this, I want to make sure that I've got everything off there. But it already shined it up tremendously. It's a huge difference. It's not a complete finish, but it removes a lot of the dullness, a lot of them scratches and dull spots that the steel wool will put on there. After that, I would go to a wet sand micro mesh. And how I would do that,
And there is what I do have a thing of water. Oh, I have water over there too.
so here's what I do. I put my water in a little bottle, and that way I'm not oversaturating this. I just pull off a little bit of water. I'll take these pads, and all I'm going to do is put a drop of water about that large on it. I'm not saturating. I don't have water flying everywhere, but I am going to turn the lathe down. I'm going to put it down here to around 1,000.
So that's the reason you don't have to put a towel over your bed. I always put a towel over my
I do too, but I didn't bring one.
I put paper towel also.
Okay, we'll do that. Put this underneath of it, hopefully to catch a little bit. So I've got about 1,400 RPMs. I'm just going to come in here and moderately work this across. You're going to build up a slurry, and that's what the water is going to do, is carry all that debris away for you in a wet sand. I'm not pressing so hard that I'm going to apply a lot of heat. I just want to create enough friction to create a slurry. I'm going to quickly go through each grit from 1 to 9. I don't spend a lot of time at each grit. I'm going through it fairly quick. Now at home, in between this, while the slurry is wet, I always wipe it off on I have a towel that lays underneath, and I would come in here and wipe them all off and clean them. But I'll take this home and throw it in a cup of water and clean them all off.
John, can you quickly mention, there was a question up there about the mandrel that you're using.
So this is the turn between center mandrel, and I like it as opposed to the rod with the knurled nut. because there's nothing to flex. The bushings slide right on the tip of that mandrel. It's easy to change. You'll see as I get through these, there's no flexing involved, so it's a little easier to stay in round.
Yeah, I know that Sarah brought up that it's a Penn State, but you can't get it here at Exotic Blanks. It's
Yeah.
my favorite. I've been using this one I don't know how many years, and I know that you guys have stocked it on some of the demos you've seen that we've been doing, that John, myself, and you do. It's an incredibly cost efficient mandrel. I mean, they're in the $30 range, maybe
Something like
$40.
that, Yeah, it's always difficult. At this time, I have a hard time answering any questions about pricing because we don't know what the tariff is going to be.
So, Dean, if you wouldn't mind picking it up and finding it on there, it's the Turn Between Centers mandrel by
PSI.
and they do PSI has it, and Ed will it is on Ed's website.
I'm way ahead of you. The link's in the chat
I'm
already.
sorry.
Replying back to him, and it's $32.95 at the moment.
Thank
So
you.
I was good on the price too. How about that?
There you go.
So after I get that all wet sanded down, then I'm going to come in here with a little bit of Novus. You can use whatever you like. There's plastics, there's I don't know, a handful of different plastic polishes. I'm going to turn the lathe up all the way. And I'm going to move to a dry spot on it. And it's as quick as I work with it. I don't spend a lot of time, but it shines up very nicely. So obviously this isn't turned to the final shape, and then I would take this to a buffer and buff it, but that'll just give you an idea of how I would wet sand it, and then using whether I use the Yorkshire grit in the process prior. I can also use it afterwards because I do still see some minor blemishes in here, but I think a lot of that was from the tool when I just turned this round real quick. Novus, for me, I use after I wet sand, and then I would take this to the buffing lift. So let's look at this mandrel real quick. This is basically what we're dealing with, minus Mark's glue buildup on his Delrin bushing here. But this is how they're going to come. And what's nice about them is you can swap bushings out that quick. There's no undoing a threaded rod, sliding the nut off, putting everything back on. You don't have to worry about whether you're using a mandrel saver and how far up or back. There's nothing in between it. You just pop the bushings off. You can put the Delrin on, put them on for a quick finish. It just comes down to, speed. It's much quicker and more durable, I think, as far as non-flexing.
And in my justification, I have 3 sets of those. And depending on what I'm doing, I will pop on the set that I want. I use that exact same setup for turning my pepper mills. I love that mandrel for turning the pepper mills, and you know that I actually use bushings for turning the pepper mills.
So on this blank, I've left all of these blanks are left oversized. And my reasoning for that is it's good practice. If you turn a blank down to finish size and you're playing with your finishes, you've only got one shot at it. If I leave this large, and this is probably twice as large as what it needs to be, I just turned it around, I can apply a finish. If I like it, when I know I get to the finish spot, I can redo it. If I don't like it, I'm easily going to cut that off, shape my blank, and move forward. So I would encourage anyone who's just starting out and playing with finishes to just start with a scrap piece of blank, whatever you're turning, acrylic or wood. Put a finish on it, take it off, put another finish on it. It'll just help you hone your technique.
Oh, and I tell people the other thing is, is it okay to interrupt?
Yep.
If you're just starting out with it, try it with a nice piece of maple, because maple takes a great finish. And here's another thing. I always advocate this in my demos, is if you're trying a new piece of wood, something that you haven't finished before, Cocobolo being one, which has a tendency to potentially be oily.
Yeah.
Black Palm is another one.
Well,
Round it down.
That's a whole different process
Yep.
there, because you've got to clean all that oil out
Yep.
before you build a finish.
But all my point was simply going to be round it down, put your finish on it, try it, and even if you're proficient with this, with whatever finish you're doing, try it on the new piece when it's round, because as John says, last thing you want to do is make that final cut, sand it down, have it look perfect to you, and then put that finish on and go, boy, I wish I would have practiced this finish once or twice.
All right, so this finish we're going to talk about now is Dr. Kirk's.
One
This is-
thing, John,
What's that?
one thing,
Yes.
the question was asked before and we talked about it ahead of time, just
Yep.
reminding
Let's go to
you.
the-
No, wait a minute. Circuit board blanks.
Yep.
What you just did is just what you would do with a circuit board blank.
Absolutely.
So-
Circuit boards,
Okay, let me
Yeah.
pop it on this one.
circuit boards, feathers, snake skins, they're all polyester, so
Yeah.
they're all going to be finished the same way. You're just going to get a nice final cut. You can sand that stuff down. Don't get real aggressive because if you get it too hot, it will start to melt. And back when I was first starting out, I was turning some inlaced acrylaster, which is basically just really hot polyester resin. And I didn't understand the term sanding. I was sanding this to its final shape because I kept leaving chips in it. Well, I got it so hot that it literally peeled right off the tube. It got soft, and the resin actually split right up the middle and fell off in my hand like soap. So that's another reason why you don't want to overheat these things, because it'll just fall apart on you.
But I find that that circuit board blank is it's more of a challenge,
Mhm.
and I do that extra step of putting the CA on it. It cuts right through and
So-
beautifully clear.
One of the things, I think there's one here, yeah. So one of the things, some of these blanks, they're square, and they can be a little chippy because they're polyester. So if you're not real comfortable with just jumping in and knocking corners off, take it to a belt sander
Yeah.
and just hit the corners and semi-round it. That way, when you start turning this, you're not hitting them square corners. It's already semi-round. It will cut much smoother for you.
And another thing,
That's,
If-
that's what I wanted to get in there.
Sure.
Okay.
in your turning process, I know you use the skew.
Mhm.
I know you're a combination of
Mhm.
both.
Yep.
I have more carbide tools, and if you're turning an acrylic and you're getting closer to the end, I will switch to a negative rate cutter.
Mhm.
The negative rate cutter by far is less aggressive,
Sure.
and it's going to give you a nice cleaner cut. I will tell you the flip side is you can't cut nearly as aggressively with it as you can with traditional cutters,
Mhm.
and it's going to take you a little longer. But you know what? That carbide, that negative ray, does exactly what it's supposed to do.
All right. So
Sorry.
Nope, that's fine, because I want to make sure that, like I said, resin blanks all turn differently. They all finish differently. And one of the easiest blanks to finish is polyester resin because it's hard. It's the hardest of all the resins that we cast, and it's the easiest to get a nice shine out of with very little effort or extra material. So, all right, the next one I want to show is Dr. Kirk's. And this is a nice 3-step process. And all you need is, of course, let me just turn this on real quick. I turned it round, but I didn't do a lot of prep to the surface. So this is the 4/0 steel wool. Now, if you're going to use this and then you apply a CA finish, one thing you want to do is take a clean rag and wipe all of this down prior to that, because you don't want to trap any of that CA in your finish. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to show you how I would use this. I'm going to turn my lathe down again, about half speed, probably about 12, 1400, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm going to take a little bit of Dr. Kirk's. I'm going to start with number 1. They're all numbered on top. This one's number 1. I'll put it on the paper towel, and I'm going to come in here and work this across. And then after I get the surface completely covered with it, then I can get more aggressive with my speed and turn it up. And I'm going to move to a dry spot on the paper towel a couple times and wipe that off. I don't want to go to the next number 2 until I know I've got number 1 all wiped down and off. And as you can see, that did a pretty good job on the shine. And we're just basically going to go through all 3 like that. I'm going to change the paper towel.
John, did you cover speed? What speed you're going at?
So yeah, I started out at about 12 to 1400,
And you did kick it up at the. I did hear you say that.
and then
you're
I
kicking
kicked it
to
up
the end.
after I started it. Again, if you start too high, all you're going to do is throw all of that back at you. So by starting slow, it allows you to cover the blank with all of that material, all of that polish. Then you can crank it up. And I'm using a separate paper towel for each. You don't have to. If you're using this stuff, you might have, a large one that you can fold over. I would just get a clean side to it. But Mark was nice enough to bring this big roll, so I'm just going to use one for each. We're going to turn it back down. And this is
That's the
number
trade-off
three.
when you're driving me home.
There you go. This is number 3. I'm going to crank it up. Now, I like it. I think it leaves a nice shine. It really just pulls all the color out. And this is on Kieranite. So Kieranite is one of them pearly blanks that kind of shimmers as you move it. You're going to see more of it.
If you want to pop it off, I can put it on the other one too.
I don't think you'll get that as the close-up way is.
I think I might. If I hold it.
Pass it over to the other camera. I would then take this blank and buff it on a buffing wheel to finish it. But the Dr. Kirk's, it really, tilt one side high so that you kind of get the shine light out of it.
Depends on which monitor you're looking at.
Yeah, I was looking at the other monitor at first.
It's much better.
So yeah, we've got 3 different monitors here, and we get a different view out of each of them. But you can see the color is just more. You see more depth into that blank after you finish something like that, and it's great stuff. It puts a real good shine, especially on something hard like Kieranite. I wouldn't be afraid to use it on polyester resin as well. It's just another finish that we have in our tool chest.
But you can see the consistency of the shine line.
Yep, absolutely. Unfortunately, that light has lines through it, so
Yes.
it's adding a stuttered shine. But that's not on the blank. Those aren't high points. That's on the actual light itself.
Yeah, you can see that if I'm moving it a little, you can see it's on the light itself.
But that's on Kieranite, and Kieranite's a pretty hard material. You'll know when you drill it, and that's something. If you drill it, you're going to want to clean the hole every half inch or so. You don't ever drill an acrylic blank in one shot. You can't be as aggressive and put the bit in like you do with the wood, because what happens is the acrylic then stays in the flutes and it starts tumbling around in there, and all of a sudden the hole that you were drilling maybe at a 3/8 is now a 12 millimeter. I mean, it just enlarges the hole because this resin gets hot and it starts to stretch and expand. So you want to make sure as you're drilling any of these acrylics, drill about a quarter to maybe a half inch at the most and back it out. Keep clearing the hole until you get all the way down to the bottom. So that's
Then don't put your tube in immediately. The
No.
brass tube, wait until it cools down before you put your brass tube in. One of the reasons people talk about the brass tube getting halfway in and then locking up and they can't get it in the rest of the way is because heat accelerates glue. Therefore, if you have a hot blank and you put a brass tube in it, it should not surprise you that the brass tube suddenly is stuck.
Well, and go ahead.
I say also, if you got your acrylic too hot, it will expand,
Yep.
and all of a sudden that hole is loose.
Yep.
So your tube's going to go in a little sloppy and loose, and then it's going to tighten up on you. So
Or if it starts to cool off while you're drilling it, it will trap the drill bit into. And those of you who talked about that, that also is a pain in the neck to take care of. But it is something that happens from time to time. If you don't, back off. And go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is for me more than anybody is, and I know we differ on this one, is 90% of my quote unquote acrylics, I paint the hole.
Yeah.
I will paint the hole and I will let the blank dry. Well, to be honest, if I have to tell the truth, and people will know this and it's a joke amongst it, I will do the drilling. I will put it on a cookie sheet, hand it over to my spouse and say, paint these and glue these. And 2 days later, I get them back so I can actually turn them. And that's the fun of having my spouse who's an avid turner herself.
I think Donna turns more than you do.
She does. She's doing pretty well. She's
I'm
doing
just gonna
pretty
say,
well.
I think Donna holds her own in that world. So I know it wasn't a lot of product in that case, but as far as resins go, like I said, it really comes down to the resin that you're turning. My go-to finish with all resin is Glue Boost.
Can I do one off-camera thing?
Yes.
Give me the piece because we're getting close on time. Give me my pepper mill.
Yep.
And give me my lacquer shot. I'm
Yep.
gonna spray it over here
All
off
right.
camera.
While you're spraying that, I'll put a quick CA on this. You want to flip over this camera?
I was just
Because
camera
when there's
3.
10 minutes left, everybody gets into production mode. Up till now, we've all been just having a great time. Now it's production mode. Everything has to get finished.
All right,
Yeah, Ed won't pay us past 8 o'clock.
That's right. No
All right.
overtime in this house.
So here's what I've done. All right, I've sanded this, I've turned this lamp around, I've sanded up the 600 grit, I've then used my 4/0 steel wool and I've wiped across it and got it nice and smooth. As you see, I just took the paper towel, wiped across the blank. You can see all this metal shavings. So we want to make sure we clean it off real well. It's nice and clean. So now I'm going to start with the lathe, very low. And honestly, I go by sight. And when I feel like that's a good spot, I look down, we're at 700. So I don't always just go to the speed. I look at it and say, all right, what's not going to throw resin back at me? I'm starting with the ultra thin. I like the stuff. It's very thin and it will fill any scratches. And all I'm going to do is move across this blank a little bit. You can see there's a little more. There we go. I hold the glue dry accelerator out about 10 inches and just give a mist across it. I'm going to use this ultra thin, usually twice. And I'll just go across the blank. And then I'll spray it again. What that does, that glue will then penetrate all them extra sanding scratches I didn't get out and fills everything. And it's already pretty shiny and transparent. Now,
John, can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Different because I do see comments coming up and that they're going to look at that mantle. One thing that I think we would both be doing differently is if it was turned all the way down, you would be using the Delrin bushings, right?
yes, absolutely.
So, and I do have a FED over there if you just wanted to show it up there.
Hold on, I got to sit here.
Because there have been people asking, and
Yep.
you do want to know that the Delrin bushings and the nice thing about getting, is it okay that John? Do you want to tell them? There's one little flaw in that mandrel system,
Yep.
Okay.
and you still provide the washer
Oh,
for it.
All
So,
right.
John, do you want to cover that one?
So in the back of this, there's a slight undercut. And when you purchase these from Ed, they come with a Delrin bushing.
On the other end.
So it's actually stuck on Mark's.
Yeah.
Um,
that's it.
Oh yeah, mine's permanently on that one.
Well, what happens is your metal bushings through friction will start to wear, and this will create a burr and will actually hang up on that and sometimes make it difficult to get this off. So Ed has fixed the manufacturing flaw by providing with a bushing that you put on before you put your or a washer before you put your bushings. Because this is overturned, it's not all the way down to the final size. I didn't need to put Delrin bushings, but I'm glad it was brought up because anytime you're applying a CA finish, it's very important that you don't glue your blank to your metal bushings.
Thanks, John.
You glue your blank to them bushings, you're going to have a problem trying to get them apart and finish without creating an issue. So on acrylic, all I'm going to do is 2 coats of the ultra thin, come in with the thin itself, the orange label, and put maybe 2 or 3 coats on it. And then all I'm going to do is my same process of wet sanding with micro mesh. And you don't need to build a real thick, heavy layer off on this. It's one of those things that all you want to do is create a uniform surface that you're going to go over lightly. Now, before I would micro mesh this, I would go back over it with the steel wool, knock all this down, and then wet sand it, and then buff it, and it would be done. So when you add a finish to some of these acrylics, it doesn't mean it's another whole day process or you have to go crazy like we did in the beginning of CA finishes and put 10 layers. All you want to do is fill the scratches, add a nice uniform that you can level out and shine and buff.
And if I'm allowed to say, because I see this one all the time, I see this one all the time on IAP. I see it all the time on Facebook. Is the products we use, especially Glue Boost, is more expensive. It just really is.
Everything's getting more expensive.
Well, but the difference is for me, and I say this all the time, I've seen people who advocate putting on 10, 15 coats of finish.
Mhm.
Not only is that then 3 times the cost of doing only four coats of finish on it versus 10 to 15 coats, it's also my time, and there is value in my time. If I can do something, put 3 to 4 coats of finish on it, be completely done and consistent,
Yep.
I'm going to pay the extra premium for
And
it.
have the same durability. You're not losing anything.
And here's the catch with it, right? It's flexible. That's not. I don't want to mean. I don't mean to make it sound like an infomercial or anything, but over the years we've used so many different CAs, and they were great when we took them off the lathe. We put them together, we use them, and then 6 months later, 3 months later, maybe a year later, you find that spiderweb crack throughout the
There was
blade.
just a post on IAP all
Yep.
about that over the last, and
And
he did a finish. It looked great. And
Yep. And the problem is a lot of CAs will continue to get hard and then they get brittle because of the accelerator that was used. And then eventually they crack through vibration, drop in, whatever. They just keep getting harder and they crack. Glue Boost is made differently. It's a flexible finish. So it's meant to hold up to that vibration and not get brittle and crack on you. So that's why it works so well. That's
This
why
is one of the advantages we have with John and Mark. John talks to Rick at
oh yeah.
Glue Boost with some degree of regularity. So he learns an awful lot about this stuff that you and even I don't have too much access to. So, when we talk about things, it's not our speculation. It's based on these guys being in touch with the guy who actually manufactures it. I want to say one thing about Glue Boost because it just came up this week. It is made in the USA.
oh,
And he
100%.
wants us
Yes.
to start talking about the fact that
Yes.
it's made in the USA. So, just for information's sake, yes, it is an American product.
I believe all his products are all made in the United
One of the last conversations I had with Rick about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about that, and I had brought up a comment about one of the competitor brands out there, and I said I don't understand why we're seeing these other issues, and he said I can tell you exactly why. My competitors' brands, some of them don't stand up to what we have, and he said that's because we use the highest quality material. And it's made in the USA. I don't have to put additives in it so that it holds up to the C elements when it's freighted over on a ship and sit in customs for how many months. He said, I don't have to worry about all that. So he said, we make everything with the best product we can and with the freshest materials and the most, well, he said the most durable and quality materials. So in using it, I believe that. So
And same with Lacquer Shop.
yeah.
Dean, do we want to do one more giveaway? We're getting close to the end here. and
Good
Mark can show
timing
us
on the
final-
break. Perfect timing.
Okay.
I'm all set to go. I'm gonna keep it
Oh,
nice,
great.
nice and easy since a lot of the talk has been Glue Boost. The last item is going to be a Glue Boost bundle that's going to get shipped out. All you got to do is type GB.
Thank you, Dean.
All right, so if it's okay to chat,
Yeah, go ahead with
I'm
the-
gonna flip on this other camera. So remember, this was how we started. That's the block, half wood, half acrylic. And then here's the product after simply 4 coats. I'll just put this in there.
That's quite a shine.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit, if you look, and I'm trying to be completely transparent about it. If you look a little bit in the resin part, you'll see a little bit of but ever so slightly.
You're seeing something completely different from what's on the screen. I can see what you're seeing, but when on the screen,
Oh, it's impossible to see it.
You don't
You won't
have
see it
that
on the
at all.
screen.
And you almost have to look at just the edge of the shine. You can see just a little bit of like the orange peel.
Yep. And all you're going to do is 4/0 steel wool that right out.
Yep.
But tell me, compare that to the original.
Yeah, I mean, even the color. Because now you look into the depth.
The color, notice there's no shine line going across the color. Sorry, the original. No shine line going across it, so it's not an optical illusion. I love this product. And as I said, This was four coats of spray on it. I will let this sit 24 hours. I will 4/0 steel wool it. I will do the Novus polish on top of it. And if you want to see a couple other things, I mean, it works great for other things like handles. This is one of Dawn's castings for a handle. And I don't know that the camera is going to do it justice, but this is clear. So you can see my hand is actually underneath. You can see the color of my hand under there. But this is clear with color in it. And then I also use Lacquer Shot for doing most all my other. This is another hybrid. There we go. I'll leave the hybrid right about there. And this is, I think, looks like a dark Buckeye Burl.
Mm-hmm.
Buckeye Burl, and then just cast the way John was talking about it. And it's a standard pizza cutter. So I think with that, we've kind of covered. We have other topics, but you want to show a Glue Boost pen? Do you mind if I show over there?
Sure.
We were going to talk about this, but when we talk about pens,
While you're showing that
This
last
is-
thing, while you're showing that, Mark, let's
Sure.
I think I caught up to most of the questions in the chat. If somebody in chat, if I missed the question, please type it out again, send it out again, and we'll get it before we shut down.
so this is one of the blanks John literally was, maybe not the exact color, but this is the blank John was literally just doing.
Oh, yeah, that's the Precious Opal. I was working on Poison, but
Right.
they're close with some of the colors.
But when it's done, it makes just a ridiculously beautiful pen.
This is one that John just started making into seam rippers as well. If any of you are looking for seam rippers for shows, I think it's a really good idea. And I think you're going to find that it will attract an awful lot of attention in your booth.
This one,
Yeah, it's available as a seam ripper now. Go ahead, Steph.
this one's a hybrid. This is one of Dawn's castings on hybrids.
Mark, move a little closer towards the pizza cutter head. There you go.
Pizza cutter.
There.
So that's a hybrid. And then Ed had this supply, and this is the Amboina.
Mhm.
Limited supply of this. And it's just, and there, I will tell you, the weird part about this is I'd like to take credit that there's a lot of work in this. It's not. It's literally just turned it, and I used the exact same technique John just showed you. I do it different, slightly different, but it's the exact same amount of time to get just a spectacular finish on it with that shine line going all the way down and through it.
Mark, what kit is that?
Junior Majestic. This one is the one that you're seeing here is the Junior Majestic. This one is the Magnetic Vertex. Oh, sorry, Vertex Supreme. I love that one. Ed knows that. I think he supplies it just because I buy most of them. And then this last one is a Junior Majestic also. Same exact setup as a Majestic. Say you can buy John's Majestic blanks and they'll work perfectly fine. This one just features the Swarovski crystal, 22 karat gold and rhodium.
So real quick with Jim Edwards, he's asking about CAM bespoke pens. Can you use silicone grease at the pen and mandrel junction to prevent sticking them together? You can try it. The biggest problem with that I found is, especially with the ultra thin, it wicks in. So I don't know. I don't have any experience with the silicone grease, but I will say that crack where the two meet, that glue is going to wick in there. And the problem that I find is when you try to take them apart, it's not that they don't come apart. It's that the CA then leaves a chip or a tear out in the finish of the actual pen surface. So when you pull them apart, you remove some of the finish off of your pen barrel. If all I can suggest is try it. If it works for you, go with it. And I hope so, because nothing's more frustrating than when you get a finish you really like and then you rip a tear out of it. So
No.
Yeah.
One
So,
of the
Mark-
things I always go ahead.
Gary Eric asks, I don't know if you're going to be willing to tell him on here or not. He's asking how much you sell the finished pen for. So, do you have a ballpark you can tell him?
those examples.
The examples, yeah. Why wouldn't I mean? He's not going to be buying them from me. John's Opal with the Swarovski crystal, that first one that I showed you. I think it's 175. And
charge you more for the blanks.
Yeah.
I know I've got a deal on all that. And the Amboina is 225.
That's better.
Well, I mean, you have,
I do it because it's fun stuff for me to
I
do.
understand.
but knowing the Amboina itself, I mean, the origin of the Amboina and how expensive it is to get anyhow, it's one of the most expensive imported woods into this country. So when you get something that's two-tone like that, it just demands a higher price.
Well, I'm not going to justify it, but you also got to realize if I'm turning it all day long and I can turn 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them before lunch,
Yep.
it's all I can do it. And I'll be honest, if you cut, I always tell people two phrases, right? If I'm on Facebook or I'm doing demos at the AEW or I'm doing demos here, I'm your best friend. And I will answer absolutely everything you want to know, and I'll be completely truthful and honest. If you set up in a booth anywhere at the same show I'm at, I'm your worst nightmare. I will never say anything bad about you, but trust me, I'm your worst nightmare.
So if I set up next to you, you're not going to talk to me?
There's a lot to that too. When you're in a show, and as you say, and I did the same thing with some of my stuff. It's you have to have a couple of products that you look at and say, you really want a deal? Here's a product that really is a deal compared to what everybody else would
Well,
charge.
That, and I have a couple of distinct advantages, right? I have the advantage that I've known you guys and I can ask you guys for tips, tricks, and favors. So that's why I hope that doing this on Thursday nights, I love giving back.
Yep.
So hopefully I'm trying to get people to a point quicker than it took me to get to that point.
Mhm.
And I've had some really good luck. As Dean knows, I've been featured on Green Bay TV. I've been featured on Chicago TV, and not just like 2-minute things. I've been on Chicago TV for 10, 15 minutes doing, you can look it up. I think you
Yep.
posted it for
We
me.
posted on it.
The
Absolutely.
10-minute
It's on the website.
A 10-minute Channel 5, which was a major, carrying me came out to my house for 5 hours. And I got to show them everything I do.
You got to show them your John U collection of pen blanks.
Nice.
The other thing is, just because I do this at the AEW, and John, you do it at the AEW too. It's a lot of fun to do this one, and hopefully I come off that I enjoy more teaching it than I worry about making money at shows. I really do. I like to do this because it's just a means to be able to help people and teach people, and I hope that comes out sincerely.
Well, and
So-
for me, I don't sell pens. Everything I make, I give away or donate to fundraisers or charities. So for me, I make the blanks, and that's what allows me to give my pens away.
Okay, Dean.
I've got 2 announcements to make. Number one, if anybody was paying attention and heard that we are now have Opal
Seam rippers?
seam rippers.
Yeah.
I've been told they're not on the site yet. They will be on the site in the next couple of days. So if you heard that and went looking for them, they're not there yet. My second announcement, our third and last winner for the night is Gary Ryman.
Congratulations, Gary.
All right.
Congratulations. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Geez, and the weird part about it is, since I'm right here right now, I hope that those Opal seam rippers don't go home. The 2 that you made to leave over here.
You just rode up with a whole box of them. So,
Right. Doesn't mean I won't be riding home with a whole box of them
Yeah.
either.
You know, the sad thing is, I spent a week getting them all done, making them, casting them, bringing them up here. Now I got to go home and start all over.
So one thing, can I?
Sure.
Can I-
Go ahead.
One thing I want to ask for everybody here is if you could do me a favor, and we do this every month, but we're always sincere about it. Our hardest challenge that we have is coming up with topics. And this one was literally, Ed called us up earlier this week and said, look, The topic I want to do is one that people have been asking for, and we have covered bits and pieces of it before in the past,
Mhm.
but we never took 2 hours and only talked about finishes. And you gave us the latitude to go beyond pens, and we talked about certain products, but we also showed techniques using other products. This wasn't intended to be a commercial for anybody's product. Please reach out to us at either sales at Exotic Blanks or in the comments right now and give us ideas for topics. And as I said the last couple times, whether we know the topic or not, we have access to a lot of people and we can bring in other people to actually do some demos for us. And we're always looking for topics for you guys. Please help us with that. That's all that I ask out of this.
Appreciate it much. And yes, it's a real interesting situation that Betty asked for this particular topic. Then she won the first one. I'm really glad to see that worked out. So all of you, thank you for coming. It was one of the things I watched, to be honest with you, is as we are giving the presentation, what is the attendance? And are they dropping off like there's bored to tears, or is this doing pretty well? And I will tell you, I was concerned about this one because it is something, finishing is something we've touched on before, and I was afraid people wouldn't even come to look at it. Our attendance tonight was better than it's been for months. There were over 100 people here and stayed here most of the time. We appreciate that information because it tells me that what we decided to do was something that you actually wanted to see and hear and stay in the process. So thank you for coming, and go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say, while they're scrolling past, I want to make sure I got this one. Dennis, I see that you're saying drilling blanks for newbies. I don't promote this as much as the other guys do, but if you go to YouTube and you look up 10 minutes to better pen making, I've got 24 videos out there, and I've got turns out it's 17 minutes on just how to drill a pen. So check that one out, but please give it to us also, because if we want to do it here, I have no problem with doing it here, but please check it out. And I know that I've got a YouTube video on it, a 10 minutes to better pen making.
I will grab the link for it and throw it in the chat.
Thank you, sir.
And drilling is interesting. If we did cover that topic here, I have a drill press here. I also have, of course, several lathes, so we could show how to do it on the lathe, or we could show how to do it on drill press or whatever.
You know, one of the things that I thought about maybe is maybe we just do one on all our best jigs that we use.
That's
Because I use that Milescraft one, and it's a great lock it in once I got it centered, and I get to keep that one.
Mhm.
I also I have now favored on high-end blanks or some of the more expensive blanks, or if I need to center perfectly,
Mhm.
I have now favored going with a chuck on the lathe
Mhm.
and using my chuck on the lathe. So that's one that I vary depending on what I'm doing, but it's a great topic, and maybe we just have a whole demo on different mandrels that we like to use, different ways we like to drill things, maybe not finish anything in that whole thing, but just talk about some of the stuff that we use.
As you say, we have some guests that are available if we wanted to go that route too. I saw somebody ask about photography, and we've talked about that. So thank you for all the ideas, and please keep them coming. The more we have as our suggestions, the better we think we can make this for you and for everybody. So
Julaine would come out and do photography.
yeah, I know.
That's a great idea. That's a tough topic. So finding somebody who can really come in and do a good job of demoing at I don't know.
So
I don't know
I've
that
got-
anybody
yeah,
here
actually-
wants to do that.
We
I-
might want to actually do that with a remote, where we could actually have her at her location, and then we could be here, or we could be wherever she is, whatever.
Julaine's done it a couple times at the Midwest Pen Turners Gathering. It was always a well-received topic, so I like that one. So hopefully we're jotting that one down. Photos of your pen and other works would be great.
And Bryce talked
Oh,
about
I see Rob Nelson on the call. Hi, Rob.
Well,
Speaking of kitless,
Yeah.
demonstrators.
yeah.
So thanks again, everybody. And unless there are additional information that you'd like to have, we will cut it off and say good night.
We'll keep the chat open for about 5 minutes just to watch if that's okay.
Okay, sure. Those of you who want to say good night, good night. And those of you who want to stick around and just shoot the bull, we're good with that. Cost to do it. Pen photos, multiple options on costs to do it. You, Kent, are you talking about have somebody else take photos for you?
Or
Well, I think
maybe he's looking at different tiers, different cameras, right? Some people can do it with your cell phone, maybe
Yeah.
some better with camera.
Okay.
Plus,
Pro camera.
lighting and angles seem to be the biggest chore when it takes a picture.
Another quick one: how to paint your blanks.
Just give it to Donna.
I don't paint that. One of the things that's out there is I don't paint the tubes. I paint the hole. And Clarence, I will tell you, check out 10 Minutes to Better Pen Making. I've got a whole 10-minute video on that one. But please send it to us. And if we want to do it again, I've got no problem with that one. But in my 10 Minutes to Better Pen Making one, I actually go through changing the colors and the difference you can get by using a white paint on the blank and a black paint on the blank.
Thanks for the clarification, Kent.
Well, Sarah's passing out in bed.
Sarah's sick. She's got,
I didn't notice
yeah,
that.
she's got aches and pains tonight.
Sorry to hear that, Sarah.
Feel better.
Hope you're better.
3D printing and pen blanks. Huh?
3D printing's another good one.
Our producer, Dean, he's the resident expert on 3D printing.
So that's interesting because that could be a thing. I haven't made a whole lot of pen blanks. I did do a talk about them once before, though. I think you've actually made more 3D printed pen blanks recently than I have, John, because I think you've actually done some casted 3D ones, didn't you? But
Yeah, I cast some of the material. I've never done. I use it more for mold making anymore than I do for the actual casting of the material.
Your pen holders are phenomenal.
Yeah, the pen stands are fun. I just actually tonight, they're not on the website yet, but if you're looking for a new pen stand, I just brought a box of sharks up tonight where he's coming out of the water with his mouth open and the pen goes right down his mouth. So kind of fun.
You can imagine that on one of the fishing kits.
Yep.
The fishing components.
Yeah, a shark vertebrae pen, which is what I initially made this for.
Yeah.
So
But the shark, the fishing component set is a pretty popular one.
so Ken actually makes a
Oh,
really
sorry,
good.
Sarah, that you need surgery. Sorry to hear that.
So Ken's comment here.
But you will be fine.
In time to help at the MPG.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. It's a different Sarah.
Oh, is it? Okay, sorry.
He says, I know someone who uses black tablecloths on a kitchen chair in the morning light. I will tell you, photos are hard. And as someone who's taken photos and dealt with photos and tried to get photos, that's where I'm at. My best photos is the heck with trying to figure out the lighting. I will literally take it outside and throw on a patio table with something underneath it. And if you get the right time of day and the right light, that's 1,000 times better picture than any artificial lighting setup I can do.
what I've noticed, especially with some of the blanks that I make, sometimes it's just impossible to photograph. So what will make a difference is whether or not it's laying flat, whether it's up at an angle. And I find if something is up at an angle more, it seems to take a better photo. I don't like to use flash because I don't want the shine through it. But your background can affect how well that picture is going to take. So I try to avoid anything bright. I want something drab and neutral in the background. But yeah, we could sit for weeks and talk about.
John Drab and neutral.
Sounds like a pen blank I could make.
The fun of being able to hang together. And I can't really say anything bad because he still has to drive me home.
So, like Mark told me once, it's a long walk back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any thunder and lightning though, so it may not be a bad drive back.
Well, not till I get to his house, and I've got another hour and 10 minutes to get to my house. So
Well, this house was only raining a couple hours
yeah,
ago.
I'm doing good if I'm home by 1 a.m. So yeah.
Do you need a bigger pen for the shark?
Ken said Shark Week.
I don't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and sadly, I made this shark a couple months ago, and I just too many things going on. I didn't get a chance to finish it, so I finished it just in time for Shark Week.
Nice.
We're always one question behind because
Yeah,
the screen that we've got that screen band on.
Yeah, I can't see that far anyhow. You can tell I'm squinting.
We're jinxing Kent, he says here. This is no talking
Well,
about
safe travels, Kent, if you are
Yeah.
flying. We will, at one point, Kent, I'll just tell you this, the truth. We will be passing O'Hare on the way home. We'll probably be there in about an hour.
Yeah, Ken does it right. I go to St. Louis. I have to drive down there. Ken, he gets to fly, so it's a little quicker.
We'll be passing O'Hare in about an hour.
At least you're going to be passing the small airport then, not the big one that's going on this week.
big thing in Green Bay.
Oshkosh. EAs are going on right now.
Okay.
Wow.
When you watch them land 6 airplanes on the same runway at the same time, it's an impressive thing.
Wow. See, where I live, I just watched the crop duster fly over and around all the telephone poles and wires. So the last week's been crazy every morning. No. This was fun. I was worried we weren't going to get through everything, or that we were going to get through everything and have time, and we didn't get through several things.
We
So,
got about 75% of the way done.
yeah. So I know we didn't get a chance to talk about friction polish, but we got to leave something for next time, right?
There you go. All right. We still have 45 people hanging out with us, which is crazy. But I think chat's gotten pretty quiet here. So unless there's some objections, I can hit the closing button here.
So thank you all from me. I know Ed said it.
Yep.
Thank you all for spending time with us.
Have a good night.